What is up, chatters? What's the music? What up?
Hi.
Hello.
Yakuza believes in her arm. Seeks retribution. Two mechanics put on her and create a new limb out of a machine gun, allowing her and a chainsaw-wielding woman to seek out their revenge.
What on earth are you reading?
I'm trying to look for this movie that I can't remember, and I asked Rock, and he gave me a movie called The Machine Girl, and it looks really good.
What
It's not the movie I was looking for, though.
I see.
The movie I was looking for is similar to Kill Bill.
What up, chat?
That movie, have you seen it, Trance?
Allegations? What allegations?
I'm gonna keep all these tabs open. Hi, Death. How are you?
You play Roblox games? Hell no.
Venta's stream. I was just scrolling through new streams and I saw her. I was interested in the stream because she was playing Luna. I haven't seen many Luna gameplays.
Let me
stream because I play Invis. I always see Invis.
But anyway, what's up, chat? How you doing?
Kill Bill is yes, yes. If you say otherwise, no. There's something wrong. Ghost in a Shell. Are you ready?
Oh yeah. I finished that episode. The new brand is pretty stupid. That's all I'll say. Because I don't want to spoil. That was pretty good.
You still?
That's why it's called. That's why he says Hodor.
Jon Snow?
No.
Yeah.
That's
Dude,
why he says Hodor.
It's so sad.
That's fucked up.
It really is.
So you're telling me the future affected the past, kinda? Since it's a flashback. I see.
Movie ban them immediately. Yes. Any mods?
What movie?
Mods are up. If they say Kill Bill is not peak.
Oh, I never watched that movie.
Then they're getting back.
That's the one with the yellow girl, right? The woman, the girl with the yellow.
You better go watch it.
Yeah, I'll get to that eventually. I have too much stuff to watch right now. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. I'm queued up whenever you're ready. You hear me? Your mic's muted, by the way. Oh, this is me.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Good job muting yourself. Yellow girl slander. Let me invite you to the thingy. What's up, Pop?
I was yapping my ass off and y'all didn't hear anything.
I mean, you just muted it like
okay
15 seconds ago. Like, it wasn't like.
Okay, what did you hear? What did you guys laugh?
You shamed me for playing, well, not watching Kill Bill, and you said I'd better go watch it.
I didn't shame you. I said you better go watch it. That's not shaming.
Well, close enough.
Oh, I was saying Death. I joined Venta right when she was on that Herbie map, and the dino was like mad at her. He was saying, what? Luna, what the fuck are you doing? So yeah. I was there exactly.
Doesn't Venta sound familiar?
Oh, she plays Luna Snow.
I feel like I know the streamer.
That was in the wrong.
Blade gameplay. No, that's a guy I won't.
And he's also a streamer, right? I think he had a streamer name or TTV in his name. What was that, Infer?
No, nothing. I sent you the stream the other thing if you want to join it.
Dano did. Yeah, but we ain't going to that stream. Permission to kill. Whoa.
Kill Yuki? Wait, what did Yuki do? Oh, that's why. Yeah, don't worry about it. He typed something crazy.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Permission to kill Yuki is crazy. If you'd have saw what he said, you would have said granted.
Tell me what he said.
Kill Bill is ass and Tartino is a sick individual. That's all. I'm not gonna read the rest of it. I mean, I haven't seen Kill Bill, so I can't speak on this, but I asked nicely this time. That's crazy.
Wow.
They'll be coming in 30
No
seconds.
comment
Stay
for that.
strong.
Hi, Angry.
He didn't say no. I didn't say you could kill him either.
Oh, Death, how was your games with Fenta? I had a dip, and I think I saw you guys were quadding.
Quad queue. Ooh,
Starts in 5,
scary.
3, 2, 1.
There you are, you cheeky git.
Smurfing on Dino. I'm not smurfing on Dino. Those characters buns.
Okay, that was just retarded.
What did you do? Did
I
you
ran
just
up.
flank as...
No, I ran up and dived in.
Oh, I'm dead. I am dead.
I played 3v1 too. Queues were like 12 minutes long. Damn.
Gigantic Chud. It's a great name.
Yeah, that's my warm-up game.
Is this a quick play? What are we
Does it
queue
have a
for?
Spidey? Ranked.
Oh, this is ranked? Oh shit. I have not
Yeah.
played all day.
Holy.
Ranked right off the bat? I'll be alright.
I gotta put a nest right here in the back. There's a Psylocke too.
I haven't played Psylocke in like a week, bruh. I'm itching. I'm
It's in
itching,
the back
chat.
somewhere.
But you were close enough.
Can't lie, I watched your VOD last night. You might be a top mag player. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Replace this right here.
Someone knows ball. It was fun. It's fun, but I like the damage on the other one. They're both good though.
Oh, that Emma advancing with the single attack.
Yeah, you gotta watch your positioning. You were playing in front of the tanks.
Yeah.
If you
There
do
goes
it, I'll
Phoenix.
call it out
Mhm.
next time in case you do it again. It's probably just a bad
Thank you,
habit.
thank you. Another thing. Oh yes, I got 2 nests. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, just spam them. Just keep throwing them down. What's up, Ivory?
Okay. That's good, but I think I'm converting to the Emma one right now.
Oh, am I gonna look at the
I
new
don't really
summer
like this
skins?
angle.
They showed new ones today? Did they show new summer skins today? They double all?
Ooh, I could try to go for a flank ult.
Go for it. I'm gonna fall back a little bit so they can push up.
Maybe. Or I might just
I mean,
drag
we have a
them.
lot of time. Just wait.
Yeah.
They're gonna push up since timer's running out. They're gonna get desperate. Kill this guy. He's body blocked.
That doesn't destroy my nest.
Whoa, that counts as touching the point. Yo, she almost took the point ulting. What the fuck? I never knew that was a thing. Did you see that?
Yeah, I can't.
Wow, she's in the Phoenix in the sky? That's kind of crazy. Never knew that.
How much time do you have?
Huh. Interesting. Oh, somebody rage quit? Alright, you can just do it then. Let me rage quit. I didn't realize somebody rage quit. Wow.
Oh,
What's up, MHT? What's up, Basim? How you doing?
To switch things up,
How's the deadlock grind been, Basim?
You'll need a
Oh,
top-notch team to win
Basim.
this one.
How are you? I think I noticed Eli's fatal flaw. My fatal flaw?
I know your fatal flaw. Gluttony.
Fatal flaw.
Gluttony. The
What is life?
overindulgence of food.
I'm not overindulging in food.
You go to like a funeral and you just like eat all the food. Just like not pay attention to the person.
Why does it have to be?
We say, you know that one meme? Funeral food so good I forgot who died. You know that meme, chat?
Oh my god. You tend to forget you have abilities or cooldowns.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I forget when I have team up.
Only
Yeah.
reason I like weddings because of
If I'm not
food.
too
Wow.
familiar with the character yet, I also kind of forget my cooldowns. Or when the fight's so intense, I kind of forget the cooldowns too.
There's nothing wrong with that, MHT. Someone gotta eat the food. You're invited to my wedding, MHT.
He's doing things for minutes at a time. I like weddings because of food. Free food?
Someone gotta eat the food. You're invited, MHT. You're invited. As much as you want. Chat to your wedding? You guys are unhinged. I don't know about that. Some of you guys can come. Only a few.
Cat's favorite food. Tell me, what's your guys' favorite food?
I think my favorite food's probably something Italian. Pasta or something.
Something Italian.
I like Italian food
What
a
kind
lot.
of pasta? Boba? Boba?
Like Alfredo or
Yeah.
something? I don't know.
Boba's your favorite? What kind of boba? You said Alfredo?
Yeah, probably Alfredo. I love Alfredo a lot.
Mm.
Spaghetti.
For some reason you don't use your shift dash for like 2 minutes. Wow, Nish, I didn't know you paid attention to that. I guess yeah. With my dashes and shift, I'm kind of conscious of it because I don't want to spam it too much and then have nothing left.
Make a tournament
to
where
escape.
top 3 can come to your wedding? What the hell?
Also, I try not to, sometimes I get too afraid to dive straight in the front like how I did in the first fight in the last
Cali?
game. Rysec. What's Rysec?
I'll let you know the next time I go to Cali, Def. I'll let you know.
Did he mean rice? Parboiled? Parboiled toilet paper.
I went to Cali like 7 times last year. Oh my god. I hate the flight.
I like drinks more than food. You do? Okay. I didn't know that, Def.
Drinks more than
Fruit
food.
teas are tasty. I'm drinking one right now.
Interesting.
Oh, yes! I love boba! I love them.
Does it move here?
I haven't had it in forever.
I thought about it, Def. But Cali's too expensive. If I would live in Cali, I'd probably live in like SoCal. I would not live in LA.
Top-notch team to win this one.
Let's go.
Best place to live? I'll think about it. Maybe far down the
It's
line.
expensive, yeah. But I really do love
Yeah, Cali is nice.
Cali. Might be biased, though, because I, like, live there.
I love San
Lived
Diego. When I was San Diego was nice.
Live in Orange County. Moving with Death and his family. We could all be roommates. Oh, roti.
He was nice too? Yeah.
Similar to sauce. I know what you're talking about, ramen. A fried vegetable. Huh? I don't know what it is in English and eggs. Chicken biryani. Let me search it up.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Is this what it is?
It was either San Francisco or San Diego. I don't remember which one it was. It was probably San Francisco, though. I'm probably tripping. I
What's
love
the
San
question?
Francisco. The question?
Yes? Ooh. I would love to try it. I would love to try this. Ramen. I've never seen this, though.
Seeing that much of you.
Starts in 5,
What's that supposed to mean?
3,
What's that supposed to mean, Def?
I have to search it. Is that what is it? Points and gourd? Yeah.
Oh, it was a Moon Knight. I gotta switch.
Oh, Ninja, you told me about what the.
No 2 traps for you. All healing team? All healing team. That sounds awful. I'm dead.
That's me not paying attention. Hold on.
Tony Rebels, they just started. Oh, they showed Wanda and Magic's trailer and Storms. Okay, cool. I'll look at it later.
Damn, White Fox is so low.
I know we looked at Wanda yesterday. Oh, they showed Storm and Magic today. I'm Dino.
You're playing Dino.
You have 2 traps. Don't forget it. Oh, I tried to grab him. Damn it.
Oh, I dashed. You must have your modesty protected.
Traded you.
What are we talking about right now? Did I miss something?
He's saying both of us are wholesome. We have to have our modesty protected. I mean, I wouldn't live in like the city.
I used to solo it.
City's expensive.
Oh no.
That guy's dead. All right, nice.
I'm gonna walk on.
Storm's not even a trailer? Yeah, I heard Storm's skin is not legendary. She's like the only summer skin that's not legendary. The people are very angry. Oh, we got the checkpoint. Oh man, Moon Knight's trying me. Thanos great this patch? Nah. This killer gets lit up too easily. Oh, he just stands still for 2 seconds. I just die. He's still really bad.
One less Ankh, one less problem.
Yeah, down with the buns. I'm only playing it because I'm giving a lot of team up.
Oh my god.
Wow, they double ulted me. What the fuck?
They just spammed everything. So they use 2 sup ult and the MK ult.
It's not bad. Wow, I died.
So they're gonna have
ult.
their healer ult's gonna come in the way. On the way. They have triple sup right now.
Alright, I apologize, but I gotta switch. Just carry his buns.
That's fine. And then they're gonna have an Emma and Blade ult.
Trigger's horrendous. Their Blade's just Blade and Moon Knight just lighting me up, and he's Blade team up.
Blade's gonna have ult.
He used it already.
Oh, he used it?
Yeah,
okay.
he used it during all that chaos earlier. He's 1 HP. Wow.
Hey, does my ult go through this convoy? Wow.
The front, not the back. The front part is smaller than the back side.
Okay, they have no sup ults.
You just try and kidnap people if you want.
Oh my god. I'm in such a bad spot. Okay, I'm gonna try to get an ult in.
Hold on.
Oh shit. Another stream, yeah. I should have done a QP before this.
I mean, we won the last match. Alrighty, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. Nice. Alright, that's not bad. Alright, walk up, they're down 2.
Oh, I forgot I don't have the.
Nice, Gambit died.
Oh, you cheeky git.
That guy's dead.
Are you fucking kidding? Ah! Oh my god.
We gotta work on your positioning.
Is it a duo or trio day?
We have to work on your positioning.
Vinny, this person looks familiar.
Dang, he's so low. That sucks. They're on triple healer now.
Ah, I deserve that bonk. They've been on triple healer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've been on since
Whoops.
second point, I think.
Wow. That dude bursted my ult. That sucks. Huh, they have that much firepower? That sucks.
Holy.
Kill this Emma. This Emma's pushed it like crazy.
Fucking bonk. Emma's just on point. No, she moved. Emma's still here somewhere.
We have nothing
Blade
for
has
that.
ult.
They off today? Nice.
Emma's trying to ult. Well, I'm late.
Uh-oh. Oh, Invis died. That's not good. Happens. All good. You can switch if you want.
Is 2-2-0. Time to switch things up.
Red Hood Demo form.
I think I'm just
blow
not
up?
playing
Yeah.
that well.
It's all good.
All the difference.
You want to switch or what?
No.
You know, I just
Okay, I will play. We need more firepower since they have we need more firepower since they have triple healer. I'm gonna go DPS as well.
I never wanted to be Iron Man.
But Iron Man. Who do they have? Emma, Moon Knight, Blade. Okay, yeah.
I don't want to try Cyclops.
Try Cyclops. Go ahead.
I don't know who's get that well though.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
do
Definitely do
practice
that right
range
now.
before I use him. Yeah.
Stay strong.
Rank is this? I don't remember.
D2.
We are on the same team, Grim. I will not lay a hand upon you.
Yeah, D2.
About me.
Okay, this should be easier for me on Iron Man since Blade can't hit me and Moon Knight can't really hit me.
I make no such.
I'm assuming Moon Knight's gonna come up here, huh?
4.
Yeah, if he does, I'm just gonna kick him off. Or yeah, that works.
Trap.
Oh, I got counter pick. What the fuck? They have a widow. What? I got counter picked in 2 seconds. Damn.
Oh, up there. There's someone up there.
It's widow. She's dead.
Can't reach out.
I killed like 3 already. I'm gonna try and kill this kid, but He's on Bucky now. He switched off Blade. Okay, I got counterpicked instantly. Damn, I could never get an Iron Man game, chat. It's impossible to get a good one with this character. This character's ass.
Hold still. I'm trying to help. Better stop that vehicle.
Oh my god, I got so low. Got him.
I might go tank
Go for it.
when I die.
All right, I'm about to ult. Bucky's one.
Us against the world.
Damn, you have ult already?
It's oh fuck.
Not one of them, but I insta died because ult sucks. God damn it. Who designed this garbage character, bro?
Now might be a good time to stop them.
Oh, we're down a healer.
Nice to know I haven't lost my hunter's instinct after all these years.
Down a healer. Yeah. Ooh, what is happening? Yeah, this guy's an idiot. Not sure what he was cooking up, but all right.
Use Emma.
It's Bucky all gone.
Emma and Bucka. Bucky, yeah.
Bucka?
Bucka.
You call him a Bucka?
I cannot speak today. I can't. My goodness. Fucking gracious.
Widow's off angling. Oh, he's 1 HP.
CC rivals.
I killed her, but I'm 1 HP.
Chat, has the chain ever help you guys? The CC chain thingy they did?
Us against the world.
CC change? Sometimes, but in our rules, I'm not gonna lie, we usually die before that thing helps us.
Perfect precision.
Double KO.
I got 2. What?
Wow.
What?
In a row.
Oh, he died.
The life force wants to heal you.
What? I headshot him in 2 bodies.
Yeah, I guess. Are we able to make space right now?
It's kind of tricky with payload at that spot, but kinda.
Right there.
What's the range on this one?
Dino? Ooh, I like that. It's good for me.
Yeah, blade again.
They're down 1. Down 2. Down 3. It should be 4 right here. Nice. Yo, play up a little bit. They're down 4.
The hook. The map is weird because of the
What a
cover available on defense. They're going up stairs.
They're coming from the top. They're coming from the top.
Do we have any healers? Oh shit!
Why? Why did Rocket?
Candy's low.
Why did he do that? I don't know why he did that.
Precision.
I'm dead as fuck. I got spawn killed by Widow.
Perfect precision.
I always come back.
Down to 30 seconds.
She literally just spawn killed me. For real.
They hit a checkpoint. Now might be a good time to
I have a minute. I think we can hold this. It's gonna be close though. Got him. Got one of their healers. I want a longer ult, but that's fine. Kill this kid. Thank you.
What is at the top?
All right. You can play back, play back, play back, play back. Cloak needs to stop being scared to ult. She's too scared to ult. I don't know why.
Knocked down before.
30 seconds.
Who?
Or
Sandy?
Cloak. She's too scared to ult. Just stop being scared with it. She could have saved us there. They use Rogue and they use Blade. We could have survived both of those easily. Cloak ult is in.
The final 10 seconds.
Oh my god, that was almost too slow. Oh, big.
What?
Nice game, GG's.
Perfect precision.
Crush for longer?
Lie. Oh.
What?
No, I was just making sure. Can you stop moving and she was ulting you?
Final score. 3.
Oh, that wouldn't have killed.
2.
You thought it was winnable.
Oh, I was gonna say 3-2.
Another
For sure, DPS.
victory.
Couple of swaps is all you need. I'll give you as a predict, sure. There, the predict's up.
I'm gonna play music. for
I
this
still have
next one.
Blade main. Yeah.
You pretty much know how to play the entire roster, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much now. All the characters that matter, I know how to play. I just need more reps. Just need more reps.
This is not connected to my Spotify for some
Which
reason.
hero do you think you want to be today?
Haven? Oh, I'm not taking song requests right now. Oh, let me look at the new skins. What am I supposed to be looking at, chat?
Hood on, guns out, let's go.
Now, who am I gonna banish from this
Ooh.
match?
Oh, that's... Oh, yeah. We need that. I'm gonna send you the thingies. If you care to look at them.
Should wait. At least it's half done. And it was a little bit over half, huh? The charge. Not over half. It was like a quarter.
Let me see this. Ever thought about competing? Nope, too lazy. Too ass and too lazy. Wait, her sword is a beach board.
High key, I heavily nerf myself when I'm playing with y'all since I have an AirPod in the ear to comms.
Hmm.
You have one AirPod?
I DM'd you the thingy. That's cool. Kind of water portals.
Oh, this is nice.
Child.
Ooh, I like her hair.
Hair looks nice.
Oh, that's cute. Ooh, I like all her color variations.
Oh, there is
Are we on defense?
customization.
Feel the thunder. Feel the wrath
are.
of the goddess.
No effects
Wait,
is criminal. Wow.
They'll be coming in 30 seconds. Stay strong.
Oh, crap, we are. I'm coming.
That's some deadly aim you got there, Sheer.
That guy is known as Wet.
Saxon's Guild.
Wet.
What's his name?
We bloodstones have always been freelancers.
Carving your own path in the woods. So's having folks who will watch your back when things fall.
Doing your own thing. I appreciate it, D4G.
The battle starts in 5.
Storm, my slim, thick queen.
1.
Wow. What a name. Well, what a compliment.
Do I hear an Iron Man?
Yep.
No. Oh, I do.
That's definitely an Iron Man. He's definitely about to die. Oh, he got healed.
Full health. How does that look?
Chat's being cleansed.
I'm gonna
Oh,
use their
cleansed for
diamond.
What happened? Uh-oh.
Ooh, we need to.
Yeah, there. I just fall back. Just run away. Run away. Run away. Run away.
Chat, how's the audio sound to you? Can you hear the music at all? Okay. Are we gonna set?
Nah, I think it's GG's right here. That's a go next angle. And they are just eating damage.
What?
Let's see if I can force an ult. Okay, well I did, but I'm fucking instantly dead. Damn.
This is good. Yeah. I haven't heard this song in a very, very long time.
What song is it?
Rush by Ira Star.
What's your favorite song?
I don't have a favorite.
What the?
I hear Iron Man about ult.
My favorite artist. You at least have a favorite artist or what?
No,
Damn.
it varies.
I feel that.
They keep going in the back.
Alright. Don't play Gru into this. DPS, don't play Gru. Don't play Gru into this. They have way too much damage.
So right, bro. I feel terrible.
Nah, you're good. We're just getting like pushed like crazy. Just go. Oh, okay, never mind. That guy left. Alright, GG's.
There's still a chance to stop them.
That guy went 0-4 left the game. There's no point. Do not portal. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late to portal.
Heart and soul.
Heart and soul? Alright, bet. You're gonna insta die in there. I'm coming though.
Damn. Now I'm dead.
Yeah, we're down one.
Yeah.
That point compensation
Let's
better.
get an ult before I.
Yeah, I don't know. They have a champion CND and a Lord Gambit. This matchmaking is fried. I don't even know if our healers actually play healer. It's unlucky matchmaking. What's up, Sidekick?
Oh, we got it down. Holy Jesus.
I've been trying to kill this Iron Man all match. I can't kill him.
I don't really know who to target either.
Doesn't really matter. Just play for fun. Game's over.
Give them another inch, or else.
I think it's too soon to surrender, isn't it? Or did
No,
the thing prompt?
it said
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
prompt.
yeah.
Okay, now I don't like this song. I don't know what that was.
That was very interactive experience. Stimulating match. Damn. Yikes. I didn't know it was that bad until I actually looked at the tweet shot.
Hero do you think you want to be today?
Yeah, they are pretty angry about that storm skin payout. Does that even count? He DC'd. I mean, someone left the game. I'm just gonna refund because that dude died 4 times, just left the game. Like he literally just closed his game. Nah, I just refunded. It's fine. Nah, it's not a good luck chat.
Is this the bus on the way home type of song? Bus on the way home. I like this song. Once in a while, it sounds nice. Hi, Unch. It has been a hot minute. How have you been? You guys don't like this song?
Yeah, it's just a fat yikes.
I love this song.
What
As long as you
song?
don't spam it.
Oh, what song
Beautiful
is it?
girls.
Oh, listen to it. Beautiful girls. By who?
I'm trying to fix the Sean Kingston.
Oh, I know that song. Yeah, that song is good. That's a good song. I haven't heard that in ages though, but yeah, that's a good song.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right audio output for this. It switches for some reason to two of my audios in the audio mixer.
Squirrel's an epic.
I'm just
Squirrel has a
lazy.
beach skin. I didn't even know she did. Bro, no one plays her.
Back into game. Oh, Unch, how do you like it? Have you tried the new hero yet?
Wait, who am I playing?
I'm just gonna hope that this freaking playlist is gonna be good.
No.
What are we having here? Oh yes! Teenage Dirtbag is up next. I love that song.
Teenage dirtbag. You're a dirtbag. I'm joking.
Okay.
I don't even know what that song
That was
sounds
so
like.
random.
When I'm done in this time, there won't be any monsters left standing.
Squirrel does have a beach skin. I didn't even know she did. Ass at this game, bro. You just gotta play more. How else are you gonna get better if you don't play the game?
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
What's up, Bucky? Why is that your
Not running anymore. I see them.
Bucky's missing arm.
What the hell? Bro,
What the?
come on, man. I was about to say what's up until I read that. Out of all the names you could have put, why that one?
Oh, Jen.
Are you okay?
Oh,
Hey, you killed her. Be confident.
I got ignored. I was
That's
very
good, no?
lucky. Yeah, somehow.
I teleported behind her and she didn't even notice. I love this team up. Till I hate it.
It's a
You
good,
are
it
not
was a good.
zipping.
I don't know. I followed up in the wrong spot. Somehow.
But you fixed your mistakes. That's all that matters.
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
You have a Thor? Oh shit, I didn't know you were on Thor. Time for a glow up. Oh man, it might have been overkill.
Oh, I think they noticed their mistake.
Yeah, I ulted too, but I didn't think they would die.
You're halfway there. Keep going.
What is that glizzy inhale emo? What is that?
Wait, what was that?
Nothing. Power. What? What is that?
I thought I could dive in because our throw was in.
Nice. I killed her with your trap.
You guys good?
I'm personally good, but I don't know the rest of the team. There's a, what is she singing when she ults? Blah blah typhoon. Oh, big ult. No.
No. I flanked with it, but Bucky was behind.
Oh, yeah, I'd be like that.
Damn, that was good.
Yeah, it was. Bucky probably died. Oh no, he did die because I killed him and he was in your trap earlier. I low-key indirectly got you killed because I killed him earlier.
No, you're
And he
good,
was
you're
respawning. Yeah, that's the tricky part about flanking with for ult. You gotta make sure no one's spawning in. That exact thing happened to me the other day.
Eat the tree.
Hey, what'd the tree do to you?
It cock blocked.
Vehicle reached the checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
Cock blocked my trap.
Hold on, escape.
Ooh, I'm chasing.
Same. Oh, they ran to the spawn room.
Okay.
Did you really just be saying shit when she says like blah blah typhoon? I don't know what the hell she's saying. Like what?
Oh, that's not what I wanted.
Don't look up like the actual translation.
Oh, they have a Hawkeye.
I've been informed she's speaking Chinese. Oh, I see. Nope. Oh my god. That's kind of evil. Dang, what the?
Don't let anything stand in your way.
trying to be careful of that Hawkeye.
Yeah, I'm focusing on him. I'm trying to kick him off the character. He's dead. Oh, she did.
Oh no.
What are you saying? No, we're winning.
No, I fucked up my ult.
Oh, I mean, round's over anyway.
Double kill.
I think they've gone through like 6 counter swaps.
Yeah, it's not working for them.
Current score is 3, 2, 0. Time to
Damn, that shit was sad. I can't believe that's really why it says Hodor. Wow. That's fucked up. That dude Brad's
really
an
is.
idiot. Why did like that dude just don't listen? Like he don't listen.
You still don't dislike Jon Snow though, which is like quite
Bro.
amazing to me.
He didn't. He got betrayed. Like?
No, but it's just like he's so stupid.
Bro, he wants to
Like-
give everyone a fair chance, including
no.
the wildlings. Come on now.
No, I can't.
You don't
I'm
like the
not sure if I want to
wildlings?
say it, but like, no, I just think he's so like.
He has like the hero.
Not
trope.
a man.
Wait, what? Wait, what? wait,
Like, he makes
what?
me
He's
so
mad. What do you
angry.
mean? He has like the hero trope. He wants to save everyone, which is probably gonna
Like,
get him
too
killed.
kind or something. It
Yeah.
like bothers me.
Yeah, he has. That's how MCs are in shows.
But look at his world. The world he lives in. You can't be too kind.
I mean, yeah, fair enough, but that's how heroes are. Like they would do
And he has
anything, no
dumb
matter
plot
what.
armor. Like the plot armor actually doesn't make sense.
3, 2,
Yeah, he's
Naive
naive.
empathy.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man. He would rather die than let a single person die on his behalf.
Oh no,
It's like Spider-Man.
It's bothering me.
That shit's gonna make him lose people. I know what you mean, though. You want chaos. You like chaos.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Shit, I like chaos. That's why I like Cyberpunk. I love Cyberpunk. Yeah, it's just the hero complex, yeah. That's what like a lot of shonen MCs had. That's why I can't. That's why I kind of hate watching shonens. Shonen animes are annoying to me. Cause like they just keep writing them all the same. The endings are all the same. It's rare to see the villains win in shonens. I'm dead.
Gotta be careful with this fucking Hawkeye.
Been hit harder than that and got back up. Malas noches.
Oh,
Like there's literally like games where like villains win. Like there's a Final Fantasy chat where the villains win. In the end, I'm not gonna say which
yeah,
Final Fantasy
I
it
would
is.
come back. I would come back.
Oh shit, you're right. Shit, I'm out of
We would
here.
have to portal for us to cap that point.
I played Persona. I've played Persona. What do you mean? I played them on. You did? Yeah, I played them on stream. I have a playlist on YouTube of all of them, except 1 and 2, because I'm not playing that shit. Oh wait, I haven't played 5 on stream. I'll probably do that before 6 drops.
Thank you for the bubble.
Yeah, do exclamation point games list if you want to check it. The most recent one I did was 4.
I'm gonna try to go for a flank.
Sure. Molten.
Shit. Okay, wait. I.
You'll be fucking shitting me. Asshole.
Oh.
What? Battle?
Emma caught me.
Aw, unlucky. Yeah, eat this hand to you, bruh. Oh, out of there. People I killed earlier are respawning. Why are you heal hood? Nice.
I'm gonna kill this fucking Emma.
Yo, chat, how's that new Overwatch character? Okay, Lily voices.
There's a Hawkeye up here.
She's nice. That's cool.
What the hell?
Happy for her.
Dude is dive. Oh,
Hawkeye?
no.
I'm dead as fuck.
What the
Damn.
hell?
She's getting buffed though?
No, the hood flanked an ult on our
Oh.
supports.
Master this game, but I'm decent with Jeff. If you want to improve on this game, I would not suggest playing Jeff. It's gonna teach you bad habits. You gotta. That's like kind of a heal bot character. It's gonna teach you bad habits. You wanna like play a character that's playing the game with your team.
You guys aren't getting a lot of heals up there.
You're probably not actually good with Jeff. You just think you're doing a lot because of Jeff is very easy to play. And you can heal bot and get a lot of value out of heal botting with him. But at high ranks, you start to get nothing.
Now might be a good time to stop them.
If you're gonna play heal, I would start with like C&D is a good starter. Not too hard, not too easy.
I'll
either.
suggest Luna.
Or Luna, yeah. Oh, especially now, yeah, Luna. That new team.
I think playing C&D for a while has made me kind of
Yeah, that would also teach you bad habits too, kind of. Make you play too passive. I can see that. I got two. C&D is more skilled than Jeff.
Killers are going up so far.
Nah, I wouldn't. At the highest level, no. But at low level, I would say. Well, C&D is pretty easy. I can't lie. Probably not. But Jeff is worse. That's for sure. So I would say. Hold on. I'm about to say, can we use one more, please? I'm dead as fuck. I got hooked. Who's the richest in chat right now? You.
We got everyone! Oh no!
What? Oh, you got everybody? We're all dead or what?
I got everyone, but there's not enough damage.
Yeah, it'd be like that. That's a pretty far. Oh, what the fuck?
Chat, that was so good. I guess because the invis ult was up, so my ult was going through her ult like twice.
Othinus, do you still play a million gacha games? Remember when you showed me your phone, I was disgusted. Yes? Why? Oh shit, that's not good. Got him. Bruh. I'm fucking stuck on the building. What? Why can that? Why does that come down? I got stuck on the building collapsing on me. So weird.
Lucky hook. Lucky hook.
Hold on, I'm at all. I got two healers. That's ace. Let's go. I don't think they have time to portal.
They're portal.
Oh, wait, this portal's pretty short. They probably might not make it, but they probably will because it's pretty close. That guy's dead.
I think he's way behind. He's half health.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
I have Iron Man.
Nah, that's gonna be annoying. Oh, he's 1 HP.
We're down a healer.
I think they're C9. These guys are trolling. What? Nice. They're literally C9ing.
Shit.
Oh my god, thanks. Punch damage.
Hold on that one as long as I could for you guys.
Oh, good. We can just go to overtime. We have 2 minutes. It's fine. Nasu, heads or tails? Tails.
3, 2, 3. The right heroes could make all the difference.
Hood on, guns
Grip?
out. Let's go.
What was it for anyway?
Oh, heads or tails? Tails. What's it for?
Not telling. What
Not
the?
telling? What?
Bruh. What did it land on? She won? Okay, what did she get? I had 2 more gotchas. Well, I don't know how you play that much gotcha games. I can't do that. It's crazy.
They'll be coming in 30 seconds. Stay strong.
She gets nothing?
The thing about us villains,
This
Henry,
dude.
we make capes look good.
You are a troll. These are failure of gamblers.
So then you ain't the same Magneto who called his OG crew the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
The battle starts in
What's the
5,
fun in gambling with nothing?
3, 2.
With nothing to lose and nothing to gain.
You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
Raise the stakes. Oh, thing was so low. What? She just grabbed me out of my shift. What the fuck? How the fuck did she do that? Bro, is she just gonna keep trying to grab me, bro? Like, this shit's annoying. This thing has got to die. Nice.
Go for him.
No winner yet. Going to overtime.
Just probably have ult. Oh, never mind.
The current score
I wonder what
is
percent she was at.
2.
Oh, our Moon Knight had ult already.
She probably had high charge because
Side you're on.
the theme kept getting low, but he didn't die.
Chat, how's everybody's day going?
Top-notch team to win this
How's your day going?
Hood on, guns out. Let's
It's okay.
Isn't Hood banned on ults? Hood for me? I mean, this is pretty high rank now. I think this is my purple game to GM.
Really?
I think I know this counts Diamond 1. I think it's close. This all is higher than my other accounts at this point. We've been playing on ults for like 5 days in a row or something. This account's pretty high now. I don't even consider this a low rank account anymore.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Day is a mess because Sage wants me to put a VR chat. VR chat? I haven't played that in... I don't even remember.
I wouldn't know.
The
I have a
game is
good
so
memory
troll.
playing VR chat. I was playing Among Us.
Oh
And,
my god, that was the last thing we played too.
I was playing Among Us. And the thing is, I didn't know how to like talk in the game,
Yeah.
so I was just chasing this kid. Like as soon as the game started, I chased this kid all around the map, and he was fucking screaming. Oh, that shit was so
Yo,
funny.
you are evil. You're so
They had to
scary.
do like they had to press the button. Like, why are you chasing him? I'm like, I don't know, it's fun. This guy was just screaming for no reason. I'm not even
you
talking.
are a
I'm
villain. I'm telling you, Chad, she is evil. She's not a buttercop. She's a butter villain. That Penny is 1 HP. Oh my god. Oh, she was anti-ult. Yep, she died. They're down one. Oh, we're down 1-2. Oh, they're down 2. They're down 2. Shoot Penny, shoot Penny, shoot Penny, shoot Penny.
I got the rocket. Ooh, y'all saw that rocket kill. That's it.
Too slow on the portal. You're scary. I want to see what you're like when you're mad. I wouldn't push you to that, but like,
I would cry.
oh, but I want to see you like angry, like actually angry, not crying, like angry.
I mean, when I'm angry, I cry. That's what I'm saying.
Bruh. Never mind. I don't want to see you cry. What the? Oh shit, the bro. I want to see her like cranky.
Like,
Cranky,
I can't control
no
my
food.
emotions, and I end up crying because of it. Like,
We gotta
I tear up
starve
and
her,
get angry
chat.
at the same time.
Lock her away from food for like 12 hours. See how angry she gets.
That wouldn't make me angry. That would make me sad.
Never mind. I give up. I give up. Never mind. I give up.
Would be Broly. She gets mad. Penny sucks right now.
I give up, dude. Oh, we see me angry?
That's such a good emo. Yeah, what about you, angry?
I haven't been angry in like nothing gets. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I've been angry because like I don't care about stuff enough to get angry. I'd just be disappointed, but angry.
I get annoyed.
Yeah, no, that's normal.
I don't think I've been super angry in a while.
Angry enough to like break shit? Nah. I mean, I have a hole in my wall, but it's not for me like getting angry. I was little and I was like watching a kung fu movie or some shit, and I fooled around too much.
I want to play
But
God of
that's
Thunder,
different.
but they just go on double poke Bucky thing. Yeah, DPS. That's how it is.
I used to be angry when I was little, but that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. That was like middle school, early middle school. I used to
Okay,
curse a
Hulk.
lot too.
Is
Kick
that
the
okay,
hole.
Hulk?
Hulk?
And for too nonchalant to get mad.
It's not about being nonchalant. I just don't care. Like, this game could never get me angry. This game is too funny. I love playing this game and meeting these people. Like that dude from yesterday, chat. I threw the video on the second channel. That dude that was mad at that girl. Yeah. That guy actually has problems.
Need a top-notch team to win this one.
My body can't handle it. It's not my body can't handle it. He's getting up in age. We seen you pressed at this game? When? I might get frustrated because some of these teams are broken, but like I remember season 6. That was the worst season of this game. I hated that season. That was when Penny got 2 nests. That shit was so frustrating. Like diving that was like impossible. And that was when Gambit was broken and Invis got her shield. So I couldn't dive at all. Elsa wasn't out yet, so I didn't play Elsa yet.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
8 frames rollback. Oh, he's talking about yesterday, bro. I wasn't mad. I was disappointed. That's why I was pointing at the screen like chat. You can see it. Whatever. Regardless, None of you guys could push me that far to get angry. It would take a very lot, like a lot.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
2.5? Was that wasn't that torch meta? I didn't play that much during that. Oh fuck, this guy does damage.
Bro.
Oh man.
I'm so lost what was happening with our healers.
Someone was diving them, but they have no dive, so I don't know who it was.
Yeah, no, it was the hood, and I was helping them with the hood, and then I don't know, I just didn't get any heals.
Yeah, same happened, man. He probably was at 100, so he started diving. I'm pushing up. I'm at 100. Never mind, I'm falling back. We lost one. The hood bind us, hood bind us, hood bind us, hood bind us. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I am lagging a little bit.
Oh, no, that's not good.
Yo, watch out, you're not getting those. They're coming from both sides. It's coming.
Yeah, let's put in Widow off angling.
Ghibli is so low.
Perfect precision.
Oh, fuck. Mike's in the squad. Yeah, I was talking to DPS. They double support
double
ult.
ult. Just kite out.
Just kite out of it. I'm gonna ult first. Oh no, rocket, no.
That's a free rocket ult.
We don't need it. All dead. That's that Magneto. Did he dead ass just wow, he focused you. He does not like you.
Okay, we definitely need to do a rocket ult now.
Rocket ult after
not?
when they portal. Wait, we might not need it. Hold on. Wait. Okay, do it. They're stuck here. Do it. It was a bad portal. Like they just die here. I'm fucking horrendous portal. What the fuck is that? I think we needed that, but all right. They're on triple healer. Jesus Christ. Oh, crutch button of doom. WO, yeah. Can I play Shogun Alicia? No, bro. Damn, you guys gotta move on. Holy. That is concerning.
Which way are they going? Fuck, I was trying to flank ult. And they just keep going separate ways.
Oh, Jubilee's won. Nice. Nice. My tail contains with Magic Iron Man Doom Blade. Is that pretty good? I think so. I still don't know who I want to put last yet for mine. Tried to
Highlighted.
teleport to it. Didn't let me teleport though.
That guy hit twice by Maggle.
Oh, Maggle? You mean Hood?
Mag hit me with his ult twice.
How? Like in a row consecutive? He's like focusing you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if he focused me or just with the healers, but I mean, I got smashed by that metal ball.
And streamer is crazy, Bonsai. All right. Let's see how it is, Bonsai.
Oh, their mag's lagging.
Oh my god. That was fat. Good job.
Whew. I'm good though, Bonsai. How are you?
Calling you streamer is perfect. I can't have a name anymore. That's crazy. I don't even get a name no more. Only an occupation. Let's see how it is.
Only 60 seconds left. You got them all.
Only Eternity streamers get names? Bro, I'm too lazy for Eternity, bro. I don't need that. I'm too ass. How about that?
We're gonna keep pushing or no?
I mean, they're down one. I mean, they gave up already. Somebody left the game or some shit. Oh, chat. I gotta pick the thing for the anime openings, huh? I forgot to do that. I'll pick it soon, chat. Only people who hit mag ults get names. Nah, this is rage bait.
No winner yet. Going to overtime. Another epic victory.
You're at work? That's what's up. Eternity streamers don't get names either. They're either addressed by their main character. Damn, that sounds depressing. Oh, yeah, it's GM now. Streamer named Nasu. Okay. I'm doing pretty good. Pretty productive day, if I do say so myself. That one bleach.
Oh, I had packet loss.
Oh no.
That's fine. I mean, it's looking good.
Till it's not. Did you ever see about getting that router replaced, or just gonna give up on it?
Oh, I forgot. Forgot.
It's fine. Tank's starting to get boring. We need some dive. I am GM now. Sure, I'll give you some dive.
Now, who am I gonna banish from this match?
Give you some black cat. How about that? No gooning allowed, though.
You have a skin for her? Oh wait, no, this is your other account, huh?
Yeah. That's like telling us to stop breathing. BSFR? The hell's BSFR?
Yeah, you're not getting that black cat, boss.
Fuck. Who do I play instead then?
You have so many characters to choose from. You could play Spider-Man.
A lie. A lie, a lie, a lie.
What?
Lie, a lie, a lie.
Pick your hero or villain. I'm not judging.
Spider-Man's always an option. He's always there.
A lie, a lie, a lie. You guys are getting Iron Fist. Oh, yeah, it's an option for you. It's an option for you, not me.
You don't want to see my Spider-Man.
I do.
Nasty.
I do. Let me see it. Let's see the Spider-Man.
It's too good. It's too good for you to see.
Oh, you're too good for me now. Okay, got it.
Tickle Fist? What? Tickle Fist?
I'm
Oh, you're
playing
playing
Iron
Iron Fist,
Fist.
huh?
Yeah. This character does no fucking damage.
30 seconds.
Do it.
Do it. Go for it.
Nah.
Do it. If we win, 20 gifted.
For now.
If we do it, and
You're nuts. If I
do it, if we win, 20 gifted. If we win.
We win.
Yes. If we lose, 10.
That's a tempting offer.
If we lose,
Tempting
10.
offer.
Just,
all right.
That's $50 versus 100.
Oh, what's the C?
GG. GG.
Yeah, we lost.
Nah, we win. Trust.
Another loser to punch.
Oops. Hold on, challenge.
Oh, they have an Elsa and a Bucky. We fucking lost.
Why did you say that?
Yo, they got meta best in slot
shit.
DPS. We fucking lost.
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
Wait, hold on, I'm cooking.
Wait.
They're low. They're low. They're all low back here. Oh my god, I killed 3. Kill this guy.
I helped you with that. God
Wait.
damn it.
Does that don't count?
Someone disconnected.
That don't count then. You got saved.
Oh man.
That's a win? Hell nah. She got saved, I see.
Which hero do you think
I was looking forward to seeing the Spidey.
Pride.
Who do I play now?
Are you ready?
Black Panther.
now? Who am I gonna banish from this match?
Let's try this dumb Black Panther nerf.
Sandy. That's who they want to ban? Why aren't you playing Bucky? I could play Bucky. I probably should. I need to get a break from Elsa right now. Gonna fall in love with Facebook Marketplace. They actually have some pretty good stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
They do. I bought my first car on there.
I hope you're well.
That's where I bought my first car. Yeah, the one that my sister crashed.
Damn.
I bought it on there for like 6,000, I think. It was like 6. Had to drive an hour to go see it though. But it was a perfect car though. It ran good too. 2017.
That's good.
It was perfect. Thought I never saw it again.
They banned Invis. What are these bans are dumb.
No, it was a steal. It was 6,000. It was paid off and everything.
Pick your hero.
That shit was a steal.
All right, I need to see who these people are playing right now.
You know how expensive car notes are, chat? That shit is no joke.
Oh, let's dive together.
Wait. Wait, you're still doing this?
Well, they banned my Elsa.
Oh, Sure.
Yeah. We're pre-cooked. We're already pre-cooked with the 2 bands they banned. Like, what?
Past is not the only goddess who has blessed me this
You came with Tony Stark?
Am I looking at? What are you looking at?
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Hey, which? Oh, no, I'm using this one. Doomed comp.
Chat, am I allowed to play Luna on this account?
I mean, we're pretty high rank now, so it doesn't matter what you play anymore. I'm like literally playing DPSs now.
Yeah.
The battle starts in
That just
5,
counts about to be higher ranked than my main at this rate.
2,
Ooh, what's your main at?
Oh, actually, my main's Celestial, but this is I'm
Yeah.
on GM3, and like it's like if we keep winning, this will be higher than my main. I mean, this is already higher than most of my ults already, because most of my ults are like plat, diamond.
Look who just showed up.
I think we're kind of fucked right now. I don't get any heals.
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
God damn it, I have a white fox. Diving's gonna be hard. I miss.
What is up with these dives?
What?
Oh.
No more? You are a cringe bag.
Feels illegal to win that team fight.
Kill that kid. Nice. Bro went no more, bro? Damn.
But not sweet enough.
Ooh. Cosmetic BP.
Cosmetic? I just
Cosmetic.
literally ate that guy's like behind.
How did that not pull them?
Bro, I dash at her once, she instantly just teleports to a teammate. She ulted to not die. God damn it.
Control lost.
Goodness. I got counterpicked
You
frame
ulted
one.
Then? You ulted then? Oh.
This character's ass. This character is so ass. My combo, the combo doesn't kill anymore, chat. It's so sad.
Captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
Can they rework him already, bro? Like, holy fuck.
Don't come back. Heal, body and soul. You're so kind.
Look at these. Look at these.
What?
Oh shit. The faces.
Oh, I'm dead. Alright, this character's ass is enough. Who do I play now?
Double KO.
And Blade. Oh, I'm using the wrong team. God damn it. Alright, feels goated. Yeah, wow. Okay, I insta died.
Going to overtime. Control lost.
But actually, I want to try the Cyclops buff. Dash against all as well. Okay, well, how would I have saw that? But dash him around the corner.
Oh, Sylas has ult.
That shit. Holy shit, I'm fast as fuck. Killed someone.
team's capture progress has passed the halfway
I'm flanking a Cyclops. We see a flank Clops shot. I killed 2. Okay, I have to use the other team up. This goes being invisible.
But she's always with me.
Those guys are about to shoot at us.
Try Spider-Man. It crashes my game if I play Spider-Man.
I don't have any sepults right now.
I don't know how we have no supports. It's kind of not good.
Well, that saved me.
Yeah, I'll play Spider-Man when they fix it, but they haven't fixed it. It's been like almost a year now.
Can you really go through the...
What? That was some bad rubber banding. What was that? Anything not put on the mask? I'll put on the mask. I'll play Deadpool.
Jean may not be here.
That good enough?
Always with me.
Have you seen any of the Tom Holland movies for Spider-Man?
Not the Tom Holland ones, no.
Damn.
30
Yeah, we gotta get you on that.
attack. Get ready.
Never seen none of them? Damn, you couldn't watch a new one even if you wanted.
Unleash from your eyes. Does it ever
Run out? Not in my experience.
A bonsai.
Some say it's channeled from a dimension of pure concussive force.
Ah, well, we can take sight pretty fast with it, I think.
I've been meaning
Favorite Spider-Man?
Three, two, one.
I like Tom's. Tom's is pretty good.
Capture the mission area. Got it?
every spell cast has its price. My debt is
Spider-Man to Celestial on the next subathon? Sure, buddy. What if that's not there? This all sucks. This all sorry. Oh, nah. That shit still doesn't do nothing.
I am ready to put on a show now.
Damn, we have no support ults again? I feel like we never have
One of
ults.
our supports got off.
Oh. That's why it feels like we never have ult.
Capture the mission area.
Damn. I could have played support if you didn't want to do it.
That's fine.
I like the cold.
Your army's been the perfect angle.
Down two. Okay, we're back.
That right there is why I hate Psylocke.
Whoa, whoa, not too much on Psylocke, chill.
Yeah, I've expressed my thoughts before.
Be strong together.
Take it further. Talk trash about my girl, I will find you. Why did we all... Yo? Why did we rocket ult? Not even at like the right area too. It's not even at the team fight. Even the enemies are like, what? I'll shoot the squids. Got Thor. Got whatever that guy's name is.
Keep going. That's 3.
So we do it on Yancey Street. Damn, wait, when was the last time you went to a movie theater? You didn't see like the Fantastic Four movie either? Oh man.
Well, which one? The old one?
The new one, the newest one.
No.
Damn. Yeah, we gotta get you outside. God damn. That's coming from me.
Where's our rocket at? Oh.
Trying to get this Psylocke off you guys.
I'm somehow getting more kills than I did as a DPS.
Those are more comfortable on Luna. Luna does a lot of damage too. Can't underestimate that.
Did he take down his res? Did not. Oh, I thought I was gonna reach him.
Yo, that guy's frying me. Let's see, Andrew Garfield's a long time ago, but I had to rewatch them.
We X-Men beat death a long time ago. I unleash the
I am ready to put on a show. Right there.
That's what I call teamwork.
Watch out, they have a BP. He's 1 HP. Oh, never mind, tore his head off. Alright, where is this kid at? I see you. Okay, that might have not been smart.
Oh yeah, whoop his ass, Nasu.
He's running away. He got a health pack. Oh, never mind. Scott? Oh, X-Men
She may
Scott?
not be here, but she's always with
They did him dirty in the X-Men movies. Murder Stream P4R and P6? Yeah. Whenever that comes out.
Get ready.
Propulsion beam.
I know you, Lindsay. Something's bothering you. What's up?
I just never expected this whole time stream to spin.
Go into those ass. The old X-Men movies aren't bad. They're just not.
Home or out on tour?
Only one that's good is First Class and like Days of Future Past. The rest aren't that good. They're pretty bad.
3, 2, 1.
They're okay.
All I need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
After what Alchemax did to me, I'm more than ready for a fight.
I think I could jump her.
Whoa.
No, I
I got
can't.
this damage.
I'm dropping.
Yeah, drop down, drop down, drop down.
I like the code.
Oh, Dean. Oh,
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
Behold the god of thunder!
I set it up, but you did the
Rocket, what are you high or something or? Bro.
yeah, not me missing them all. Crazy. My aim is so bad.
Is he drunk or something? Like, why does he keep doing that? He just ults after everyone's dead already. I'm not even sure we could actually lose this.
I can't see you.
She's just stomping around, but not stomping next to her teammates. This girl's a troll. You can't teach that. I don't know.
You were in my path. for the boost. Perfect angle.
That didn't kill her? Oh. Thor was
Oh,
one
Thor was
HP.
one.
Still one down there. Oh, someone's one. Oh, I'm dead.
Fucking Thor.
Overextended. Fall back. You guys are down too. Well, die on site so we get to 99.
If the battle's not done,
But die on
neither
site.
am
Stay
I.
on site. Keep touching. Just keep touching. Just keep touching. Die on site. Just die on site. Don't be afraid. Oh my god. Oh my lordy. Okay, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. We don't want to play objective? This foot is gonna kill me. I'm fucking dead.
Can't heal you.
Nah, I'm dead. Don't worry about it. Oh, this, we gotta win one more team fight to win the match. It's gonna be kind of tricky because this rocket is
Beat death a long time ago. Blasting through.
See them? Right there.
Maximum impact. Thanks for the boost.
Behold the god of thunder!
Right on target.
Dude, they
Rocket,
so
please
low.
ult. Rocket, please, please. Oh my fucking god, bro. We killed like one or two and he didn't ult site.
Listen, the professor didn't train quitters.
He's dead. Okay.
Armed and dangerous.
Okay, we have the portal. Strange, come back. Strange, come back. Come on, we got a portal. We got a portal. We got a portal. Actually, no. Just keep walking. Keep walking. They're down one. They're down one. They're down one. Keep going.
Oh yeah.
Solix one. Solix one. Rocket, please. Ult us. Rocket, please. Oh, I'm gonna lose my shit. Yo, I don't know what to do for this guy.
The professor didn't train quitters. Blasting through.
You guys won that, I think. Okay, nice. They're on site. Come back to site. They're down one healer. Holy shit, that sound like it's hard focusing you. Alright, that should be game. I think. Oh no, you guys died to the Psylocke? Oh no, we lost. We just lost. Like, touch if you can. It's okay if you die on site. Oh no, bro.
Oh my god.
Okay, we portal. We're coming, we're coming. This dude ulted me. Dude, what is this match, chat? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Nah, I don't blame you. That match was stressful. Okay, the DD? Bro, you know I always got the DD on me. I gotta avoid the rocket. I'm avoiding. I'm sorry. I'm not. Nah. Type shit. Type shit. Oh, man. What rank is your main account, by the way? Isn't it GM2?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say you can switch your main if you want, but up to you. This is merchant. I was riveting Rocket gameplay, bro. That guy's ults were like, I don't know how he's this high rank. I'm checking.
Yeah, those are really bad rocket ult.
What does he play? Does he actually? Oh my god, he has 75 hours on Rocket. What? That's his main. Bro, what? He plays Rocket, Angela, Ultron, Luna, Invis, Elsa, Gambit. Yeah, I don't know. That guy is a complete troll.
Yeah, it's probably a bad game for him.
No, but I told him what to do. Just he just didn't listen. That has nothing to do with bad game. He's just not listening to the comms. Unless he was in a voice chat. I didn't check. I forgot.
Also, Ultron.
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
We're not smurf. We're not smurfing. Not smurfing anymore. I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
Where Magneto yields.
Now, who am I gonna banish from this match?
Who do I want to play this match? I don't even know anymore. That last match just completely threw me off. It was a fever dream. Yeah, you were able to hit my keyboard? Sorry.
Who the fuck bans? Okay, never mind.
I wasn't looking, but whatever.
Last game.
Okay. Let me actually pay attention to the bans. I'm gonna ban Gambit. Then I'm gonna ban Mantis. I don't want to fight Mantis. Oh, yeah, this is gone. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I thought it was gonna be another C&D Invis ban because that made no sense.
Hmm.
I'm already used to the C&D one.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
I'll play Bucky.
All right. I'll play Magneto, I guess. Or anyone else want to play?
If you want to play DPS, I don't mind playing tank.
No, I'm trying to.
I'll get
I
better
don't
with
mind
Mag
playing
too.
tank.
Hood on, guns out, let's go.
It's up to you. Which one do you feel like playing?
The hand of heaven is
Up to
here.
you.
Hood on, guns
Bro,
out,
bro. Ladies first.
Come on,
Yes,
man.
I'm
I'm
pulling
always
that card.
choosing.
What do you
I'm
mean you're always
always
choosing? No, you're
choosing.
not.
Yeah, I am. Most of the time, I am.
Most of the time ain't all the time.
chaos I can cause.
Most time.
30 seconds.
Most
Like
of the time is not all the
70,
time.
More like 80-20.
That's a good split.
Choose. That's not a good split. That's not even
Fair
split.
split. I think that's pretty fair.
Who's worthy, bruh?
Fine, I'll play
Yeah,
DPS.
Out, let's go.
I'll play
You don't have to find the magic in this.
I don't know.
Battle starts in 5,
Moon Knight, I guess.
3, 2, 1.
Try this also too much.
Oh, GP.
All
No.
you need to do is capture the missionary.
They don't believe you're real, can't you? I'll make sure they regret that.
She said, "Oh, look at the little Jeff," and he got blown up in front of her eyes.
My God.
The penny blew him up in front of her eyes. Holy shit.
Can't find this map. They're down at
Nice.
DPS.
We gotta walk forward. They're done it. Oh. They have a Daredevil.
Okay.
I was gonna walk until Daredevil snatched my damn cheeks.
Come on,
Or no, Penny did actually.
That was stupid, but Infernasu was almost down. Our games are good, Samantha. We just had a really, really dumb one, but it's good.
Holy balls, my health bar. He's trying to just DD's trying to one shot her Jeff. That idiot. I'm ulting her ass. She can go kick rocks. Yo, I kicked rocks.
Rock!
I done a mines. How did she avoid that? What?
Down, let's push.
up my fist.
Okay, I'm just gonna play Bucky and pull her.
Nice to know I haven't lost my hunter's instinct after all these years.
That's down. Well, I thought I could give you a bubble, I guess not. I'm so confused why you can't push him.
Oh my god, out of Daredevil.
Our healer's just dying.
Yeah, I'm playing,
Jeff might not be good for the,
Daredevil. Daredevil as well. That
And
dude is
Daredevil,
frying his
yeah.
ass.
Damn, we had 2 opportunities to go in.
Oh god, yeah, we did. Okay, I pulled him and he insta-ulted. Nice. Nice. Okay, we have to walk in here. There's like no, if we don't walk in here, then I don't know what to tell you
Careful of
guys.
the next, please.
Nice. Jeff, what are you ulting? They're down 3. Come on, man.
Oh, there's spawn. Oh, there's spawn. Luna in the back.
What did he ult? I don't know, man. You can't teach that, bro. Like, game sense says like they're down 3 players. Why would you press the ult button? I mean, there's no need to press that. He just. Like, I hook through the wall. Wow, I didn't get my gun.
You need to push back.
What? They were down. Wait, who? Wait, what? What happened?
Been knocked down before.
How do we lose people?
That's what I need.
Down, hello.
Can we kill this Strange? Melt it, burn it, burn it, burn it, burn it, burn it.
Yeah, I'm gonna chase everyone.
By the eye
This sucks.
I always come back.
Yo soy el final.
Hela's low.
Slowed her.
Oh my god! I need heals like bad. Our healer's dead.
Sorta.
Double kill.
Nothing personal.
That's 3.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's a Daredevil on our back line. Yo, healers, you gotta come to us so we can help you. Hulk, are you dead ass?
I'm gonna use diamond. They're triple right now.
What? Like that low?
DD in the back.
Oh yeah, it's Snowflake. He was not gonna die.
Going to overtime.
An illusion can be just as deadly as the real thing.
Get down.
This will confuse them.
Stop it, bro. The whole team is on me.
Step aside.
Oh my god, can this Emma die?
Natasha hooked me up to
Our healers are getting dived.
I'm dead. They're rocket ulted. They're on triple healer. Very fun triple. Yippee.
Time to switch things up, including
Very
which
annoying.
side you're on.
Right, cat recall until looks insidious. Insidious.
We need some anti-dive.
My order
Anti-dive. Okay, I'll go no more.
Yeah, because they can't live.
to drown in my wake.
I'll go no more.
Why can't they play Invis? Invis is pretty good living.
The Quavius Port Jr. Any other character you want to practice? You haven't started practicing yet? Or you think you have a solid loadout now?
I think I'm fine with the characters I have that I want to practice already.
Nice. Is Blade not a
I
triple
just gotta
counter?
get better with them.
Blade has never been a triple counter. What do you mean? What? I just do it because I don't have a choice.
They have.
Zantia was not strong enough to counter triple.
They have Emma Hulk. Emma Hulk.
4, 3.
I don't know if they're gonna go triple again. I have to see.
Hopefully not.
You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
Hey, you think they can hit my big head? Hold on. They can't. Wait, I'm safe.
For like a quick moment, I thought you meant IRL. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, okay. I am dead as fuck.
Luna low.
A nice deep freeze.
I'm gonna pull back. Looks like we're all pulling back.
Oh my god, this guy's Snowflake, so
Oh,
he's
what?
taking no damage.
I didn't know we were getting dived like that.
Yeah, I gotta play back. That's on me. I played too far up. Daredevil was already diving them. I didn't know that.
I'm guessing we didn't want to play in the courtyard. Y'all need a strange?
I could win their healers.
Yeah, I'm a strange.
It might be too late.
Oh, please touch. Oh.
That guy's dead.
How is Chef gonna get them though?
No, I killed one of their healers, but the hell? Why are you peeking me? That guy's ballsy.
Should we fight up here? Probably not. No, I'm going back. I feel like it's too
Yeah, it's a
open.
little far back because Daredevil was easily able to flank from there. Damn, fat old.
Nice.
The Quavious Pork Jr. on the scene. Nice. We're actually doing pretty good now. Damn, that wall makes my shit do no damage.
Are they gonna come out? I'm looking for an ult.
Oh, that guy had a fat ult. I got Daredevil.
I forced an ult. Not sure if that force was needed though.
Oh man, she pressed it too slow. Oh wait, you're the strange. Thought you were a thing. Oh wait, no, DPS is thing.
Wait a damn moment. Ooh, that was nice.
Not a bad hold. Bro, what? What shredded me that much? Damn.
My battle has only just begun. Protect your king.
They use pretty much every ult, huh? Except for one of the healers, I think.
Yeah. Something like that. Daredevil just killed like
Okay,
3
wait,
of us.
we cannot.
Yeah, that's not good. These games are weird. We're winning, but like they're so stressful. It's so close. This one, I don't think we're gonna win, but yeah, it's over.
I need that Jeff to switch.
It's too late.
I should have
These games are weird. Like we're winning, but like it doesn't feel like we're winning. This one we actually lost. Go for it.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Oh, I forgot to pay out this one from earlier. Don't want to play ranked anymore? Why not? It's not ranked. Don't like growing gray hairs. Two consecutive days of foolery? Bro, get some friends to play with, man. This game is not a game you should be playing solo. Like, anyone, find someone. Play with someone. Lose together. So that at least, if you're losing together, you can have fun playing together at least. None of my friends play this game? Ooh. We gotta make some, bro. Jeez. That, I mean, that, I don't know what to tell you there. Not much you can really do in a situation like that. You gotta find some that do play the game. Oh man, oh man, oh man.
Will deliver oblivion. Enemy ahead of us.
Solo queue and stuff. I mean, I solo queue, but like, I'm just too lazy to ask people to play, and I don't really like care if I win or lose because I'm playing. I'm gonna have fun regardless. I'm gonna have fun regardless. Best believe that. I'll play my blade. I'm gonna play my Psylocke, and I have an amazing time. Like I'm not playing the climb. I mean, I played a climb, but like not like, you know what I mean. It's not the end of the day if I lose every match that stream. Because I mean, days like that will happen. It's inevitable. Our friends play Rust and Roblox. Yeah, GG. I think most of my friends still play Val, or I don't know what they're playing nowadays. Yeah, I think they're all just still play Roblox, I think. COD? Shit, I can play some COD. I love Call of Duty, even though it's COD. Falling into that trap of buying new COD every year. Those were the days. My clown on Imagine, I'm just playing random characters.
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
This match I won't though. I'm playing Psylocke. I haven't played Psylocke in like a week. I'm not trying to get rusty with Psylocke.
My mind is sharper.
Oh my god, you guys can't see me.
Now,
Where did you go? What does that mean?
I boosted my seat up, so ouch.
So your feet's definitely not touching the floor now, for sure. Is that what you're telling us?
I'm sitting on my feet right now.
Like crisscross? That doesn't hurt?
No.
Wait, no. Wait, then how?
Like how you sit on your knees.
Oh, I know what you mean.
That's too low. A little bit too low. Oh no, that's fine.
What's up, Bumblebee? How you doing?
And you don't have a thing in your ear. You just got a ban thing.
They did the same thing to me yesterday. I played Magic and that guy switched the thing instantly. So I played Moon Knight, I kicked him off the thing, and then he switched back the thing. Like, bruh. Play an L sitting position. Do you play like that? Wait, you watched Death Note before, right?
pick your hero or villain.
No, I have not. But I know the sitting position you're talking about.
You playing that?
No, I can't play like that. I've actually seen some people play like that.
My friend does. Wait, how have you not seen Death Note? For someone that likes horror anime, I'd have expected you to like seen that. Huh.
Oh, they banned Elsa? Fuck.
Yeah, at this rank, it's gonna be permabanned.
Like this? I could probably play like this, but I might fall off my chair.
Yeah, your like knees have to like be facing forward, like your feet in your chair. Watching you is giving me confidence to pick up DPS on Rebels. I've been doing okay so far, Maurice. That's nice to hear. Glad to help out. Okay, don't actually force yourself to do that. Don't force yourself to do that if it's uncomfortable.
I'm not forcing this. It's not uncomfortable. I was just trying it.
It's not uncomfortable, but it's not comfortable. I see.
It's full of dangers I could never have imagined.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3.
Nah, I'm not doing that.
2, 1.
I'm not even like tall or nothing, but I'm not. I don't think my feet could like. I mean, my legs would like fit in my chair like that. Maybe it will. I don't know. My chair's not that big. Who's the tallest in chat? Chat, how tall are you guys again? Who's the tallest? Me? No, I'm not tall. I don't want to be tall. No, I'm good. 6'2", 8'2". Okay, the tallest we've seen so far is 6'2". There's gotta be someone taller than 6'2" in here.
Trying to get their healers in the back.
I want to pressure the backline. It's just hard. They have a lot of poke.
Backline's low.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard. I have Cyclops fucking shooting the hell out of me and this Widow.
They're all like low.
I died too, bro. I hate poking on this map. I mean, diving on this map. I can't hide anywhere.
Down a healer and a DPS.
Nice, you guys are cooking them. 6'8". Okay, I think that's the tallest so far. 6'7".
That was a good Sandy ult, but they're gonna have both their healer ults too.
5'10", 8'2". I think.
Just push up.
I think Zero, you might be the tallest in the chat. 6'8", damn. That's impressive.
Holy.
Oh my god. Oh, I've missed playing this character. I'm dead. Okay, I'm not dead.
You're not dead.
Thank you. My hero. Whoa. That was ballsy. Bro, my fucking health bar. I hate playing dive on this map. I can't do shit. No, we forced both their ults offsite. It's actually pretty good for us. Damn, yeah, they get fried now. They have no ults. We used to have Luna ult too. I mean, Cloak ult. Damn, you're frying them. I know. They're portaling. Fall back, they're portaling. Come to site, come to site.
Ooh, I'm lagging though. Fuck.
Oh, wow. Is that an Iron Man? That's an Iron Man. Okay. Okay. Don't be afraid to ult, CND. They have no ults. No, as long as she does it quickly. We have to actually win this team fight ASAP.
Why am I shooting the fucking air? You know what, Iron Man? Fuck you. Fuck you.
Bro, we're losing this? Yeah, we would have won that if... I'm pretty sure we would have won that if CND ulted earlier, because we would have lost nobody and we would have just killed them. But now this is bad because they're gonna get their ults back. Tempo is not good.
Probably under the assumption that we would have won the game by now.
Yeah, it's
probably
too
wanted to
risky.
save her ult for next game.
Yeah. Now they have 2 ults and we have 1. This is actually pretty bad for us.
Iron Man's probably gonna have ult. Iron Man's probably gonna have ult soon.
I chose the worst map to play Silent. I'm gonna switch after I ult. Like, I can't dive on this map. This map sucks for dive. Oh my goodness. I'm literally doing nothing on Psylocke. I gotta hurry up and ult.
Your team's capture progress has passed the halfway point. I can restore health, remember? I can restore health, remember?
Did they use any support ults for that invis ult we did?
don't think so.
Oh, that's not good. Now they're gonna come on me. Got her. I got one of their supports. Push up, please. Oh no, we're down. Damn, we actually just lose the match after all that shit from earlier. That sucks.
I know.
This battle calls for special ammo.
Okay, yeah, I gotta just play Widow.
No winner yet. Going to overtime.
Again.
Phoenix bullets. I am ready to put on a show.
Co-op time.
Slow down.
Shoots. Iron Man's beam doesn't charge the ult. That's interesting.
God, this guy's fucking annoying.
Cosmic rounds.
Oh.
Maximum.
How did I not get healed there? Whatever. I just gotta play Widow. Oh lordy. Number 4 word said. Yeah, we actually just lose there because we didn't ult earlier. That sucks. It's all good though. I think it's winnable still. Okay, now I can actually dive. I shouldn't have played dive on that part of the map. That map sucks for dive. It's actually really, really bad. Oh, you're getting thrashed? No, it's fine.
30 seconds before you
Come back here.
get ready.
Just our ult rotation is just bad.
You could be an excellent sparring partner. Currently, I'm more interested in fighting against our common foes. When this battle is won,
How come you don't play Hella? That character is so boring. I'm not playing Hella. Why would I play Hella when I can play Elsa and Phoenix? I don't have a reason to.
4, 3, 2.
Elsa and Phoenix are infinitely more fun. And you get infinitely more value even if your aim is worse, since they have better util. With Hella, you have to hit headshots. Or I mean, hit shots, not headshots. I like aim intensive characters. That's too aim intensive.
Oh wow, I didn't think I was gonna get melted like that.
Bro, this guy is getting pocketed to it. I'm dead. I'm not dead. Bro, how am I supposed to kill this guy? He's Snowflake too, yeah. I can't kill him. It's impossible.
I should be charging our supple, but I'm like getting.
That girl doesn't die.
Come on, solo.
That guy's one. I killed him. Why are we not playing up?
Fuck, Iron Man just
I'm about to ult them. Get ready, get ready. That's fat.
Oh, perfect. That was good.
What? He kills me there? Where the heals at? No, that guy should not be able to kill me there. Wow, that's crazy.
Still got some fight left in me. Force boost.
That's not it.
Did we want to shield up that?
Half of the mission area. Keep going.
Hey, if Iron Man ults and do I have to throw it immediately?
No. Wait, I don't know what percent it gives, but it'll charge it up for sure. It'll definitely be enough to kill someone. The moment you hit maximum, just press F.
I am ready to put on a show.
Fuck so much.
I killed Iron Man.
Glory is almost yours.
You know what? I should have ulted there. It's fine then. Oh, he's not on Iron Man anymore. He must have switched just now.
He's on Cyclops now, yeah.
These. I guess I have a free ult now, or I could just save it.
It's up to you. You just gotta push up a little bit and yeah, just do it.
I'm gonna try to ult to push us in.
Go for it. Nice.
I got two.
Let's go. Good job.
By the eye of Agamotto. Power beyond sight. Heal me up, please.
Control C's.
Can I get it? Finish healing me,
They're both
please.
down.
Oh.
Take cover. Our healers are getting here.
Oh. Oh no, I didn't know the healers were down. So I'm like, why am I not getting healed all the way?
No winner yet. Going to overtime.
She must have just died because I was getting you and then it just randomly stopped. Nice. Maybe adaptation. Let's go. And good Mago, by the way.
Be careful of the roof. Don't want to be like Infer.
And fuck you, fake. Fuck you.
Oh my god.
She may not be here, but she's always with me.
Before you attack, get ready.
We need to pay attention a little bit more to our healers, just because they're getting dived.
By who?
I think they're getting dived by like a tank or something. I don't know. I did see Strange on them in the last game, and yeah, no, the tanks are just pushing past us.
I see. Do you think Dagger pegs cloak?
What?
Oh.
What a
comment.
terrible day to have eyes.
I don't think this needs to be a debate.
Oh my god, Bucky's won. Oh my god, I can't play the game.
I am ready to put on a show.
Yo.
They're down healer.
Invis one, Invis one.
Wanda's one.
Yeah, you're getting some crazy ults.
I'm trying my best.
Nah, you're doing really good.
Thank you, thank you.
It seems we have company.
Get behind me.
Oh my fucking goodness, these guys are annoying. Got him. I know he's mad. I know he's mad. This Magneto's on me because he's a fucking loser. Yo, this Magneto is pushed up behind us. Look behind us. This Magneto is focusing me. What? Oh my god, that character is so broken. Yo, why are we not using any support ults? We could have used a support ult. That's crazy.
We could have, yeah.
So we haven't won. Pulse charge.
Okay, whatever. It's all good. We just retake with cloak ult. It's okay if we died. It's okay. It's okay.
No.
It's
no,
not.
no, no.
It's not, but whatever. I gotta make them know that their actions aren't that bad.
I ult first. Okay.
Invisible?
How did she die?
I am ready to
Oh my goodness, bro. I couldn't run. I got pulled and I was getting pulled by the Wanda ult.
Where's our C? Oh my god, our C&D is separated.
Widow is operational. Pulse charge. Enhanced ammo.
Their team's capture progress has passed the halfway point.
Phoenix bullets. Bogies, here they come.
Okay, I have to off angle and ult.
Damn, that Wanda's getting so fucking low.
Widow's bias.
I got
Perfect precision.
someone.
They've almost got him. Enhanced ammo, please. Control seized. The area's almost
Get that Luna, get that Luna, get that Luna. Don't let her leave.
I'm not that fast, dude. Other portable.
I'm so dead. He's not that bad.
God damn it.
They have no supports, right?
disappear.
It was blocked by who?
Going to overtime.
Got two. I'm an off-angle demon. I'm an off-angle demon. That's what that Luna gets. She tried to kill me again, but I was off-angle, so she couldn't shoot me. Asshole.
Yes, I got 8.
Nice. I'd say your mag is definitely good enough to be played on your main, 100%.
When I use 100% brain power, yes.
Wait, what the? What's that supposed to mean?
I have to use like a lot of brain power for this. It doesn't come as naturally.
Comes sacred.
If you play
more...
stuff for a long time, then you get used to it. So
I
I just gotta play this for a long time.
Yeah. Just need more reps. So it
Strange
becomes
kind of
second nature.
pickle. Don't talk to that about me.
Get me away from them, bro. Get me away from them.
Oh my god.
So when I play with her all the time, her brain is off. Got it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. My brain doesn't turn off when I play support, but like it's more natural for me to.
Is your brain on right now?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's on?
No, it's not on. It's dead. There's no brain there.
So your brain dead.
Someone kidnapped it. I don't know who.
Who kidnapped it? Your brain's made of butter, isn't it?
Shiro, do you think you want
Butter brain. You damn butter brain.
Wait, that's good.
Can autopilot? Hey, you can't. Because he had the bubble teammates and stuff. It's kind of hard to do that.
Play.
Hood on, guns out. Let's go.
Now,
I'll tank with you.
I'm gonna banish from this match.
Bucky Summer. Yo, her brain was off when she saw that instantly, bro.
Don't
When
bring
she saw that
up.
shit, oh my god. What's that? What's the meme with the
Don't
monkey
bring
chat?
that
The neuron
up.
activation?
It was very surprising. Okay, I
The
just
neuron
wasn't
activation
expecting
monkey meme.
It's the summer Bucky skin.
That shit, yo, she lost it. She instantly.
it. Oh,
I have never seen your eyes light up like that.
my god.
Mm.
No comment, chat. I'm gonna get that skin though.
Oh yeah, you definitely are. Is that gonna replace the cap skin
Gonna
for
give
you?
me yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we know which one you chose in that video for sure, huh? You know what video I'm talking about. No names. I'm not gonna list it.
And for not getting the black cat skin, yeah.
I'm not. I don't like that skin.
You're not?
Nope.
Damn.
I want the magic
Okay.
skin.
Play Blade.
They banned Blade down.
All the difference.
Nah, I'm not buying that
Wait,
one.
really?
Queen Gooner. It is Queen Gooner. You buying out the whole shop cap? Okay, if it's in a bundle, I'll buy it. But like, I like her racing skin more. The summer black cat's
black
kind of.
cats? Ooh, that's really nice.
The summer one is kind of like bland.
I feel like summer skins are full of disappointment though. A lot of the summer skins I see are just not that good.
Yeah, I agree.
What, the magic skins in the balloon event? I would hate that.
Balloon? Oh my god. Yo, my luck with that shit is not it.
No, hero, not again.
Stay strong.
No.
Where's the Genshin one? I know you didn't you do one for Genshin? Where's the Genshin one? Someone find that. Or didn't you delete it?
Do you guys want a triple tank?
Why she change the topic? Nah, wait. Well, one defense is fine. One defense is fine.
Yeah, trio triple tank.
We're on
I like
defense.
this.
It's okay.
Battle starts in
I'm gonna just play aggressive, do a lot of damage.
3, 2,
We have a Squirgle. Yeah, hell yeah, this works. Now we have Thor. Yeah, we're gonna do damage. This will work.
I do still
Honkai Starro?
Oh, they got a Spidey.
I joined for Honkai Starro for one character and one character only. They are dive. Oh man.
Oh my god.
Every time he says, "Oh my god," it just catches me off guard. Okay, but they really are dive. That's a bit too far.
Ooh. Oh, don't worry about it. You'll see her one day. Or maybe you won't.
Fuck.
And silence Black Ghost. Not too much. You're talking too much. Silence. This guy's a loser.
Oh my god, we're gonna need help with these dives.
Yeah, I'll go to more in a second.
No, what? He didn't die?
Yeah, the trap got nerfed, remember? That shit would have killed if it was last update, that's for sure. Last update, that thing stuck for ages.
Oh,
Yo, be
Got his
careful
ass.
using your E, because you're gonna need it to because he's pulling people off the map. You're gonna need it in case he pulls you off the map.
Okay. Okay.
That's really all he's playing for right now. That guy's dead. Where's Invis?
Alright, Ty. Now we really have to attack.
Dead.
What? I shot him through the... How did that not hit, chat? Why is this guy on Scarlet Witch? My God, this guy just keeps trying to pull me off the map. It's so annoying. Nice. Your trap stunned him when I killed him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just keep putting the traps down. Shit, I might go Dino actually for more anti-dive. Damn losers. Oh, they're getting off dive. They have a Cyclops now. They have no... Oh, they still have a Spider-Man, though. Destroy it, destroy it.
Ooh, I'm bad.
Weak ass ult. Cook. Mucho
The more
better.
now?
He's just trying random characters. He's playing random select.
Hey, Strength has ult, huh?
Yeah. Strange just kind of trying to come back here and ult. Careful, careful. I'm about to ult. That voice line is so hard, chat.
Who died?
I did.
Oh, Lord.
Fall back. See you, hero.
Just started my climb. Ain't stopping yet.
What does this hood all translate to? I am the end. No, it's not face oblivion. She died the moment she ulted.
Damn it.
She ulted too low.
I was kind of saving my ult to ult Strange in case he gets everyone, but I should use it sooner.
By the eye of Agamotto.
Destroy it if you can. Never mind, I insta-dud.
We got it?
Nope. Nope. I got a laser, damn. I think you should play Phoenix instead of Elsa.
Oh, for Rocket?
Yeah, since they're not on dive anymore.
Luna Snow could bring a little star power to your group. Better stop that vehicle!
Oh, these guys are annoying. Nice. got rocket before I died.
No, I messed that up.
Hmm.
The final 10 seconds.
Yo, what's up, Kuboku?
Really?
What?
Nothing.
Oh, they C9'd. Nice. Yo, appreciate the raid, Kuboku. How you doing?
2, 2.
Great indeed.
Time to switch things up, including which side you're on.
Oh, if I put the jobs back on the screen, I bet you.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Hood on, guns out, let's go.
Doing night. What was you guys up to? Down rivals or what? Damn, my hands are so cold. Holy. Hold on. It's a crazy cold. Cancel and get 4 HP. I know.
Get ready.
Been lurking here now. Alright, what's up? I got good games. Nice. Ugh. Whoa. God damn. I'm gonna do a short stream today.
How long have you been? Oh, you started streaming as soon as I
Started after you. That's a first. Okay, not a first, but it's a rare.
What is the short stream for you? Are they going Spidey again?
Short stream for me would be like 4 hours. I usually do like try to do it. I'm dead as fuck. I try to do at least 6 a day, at least 6, which is already too much, but I enjoy streaming, so I think I might relax today and chillax. Might be a chillax type of night.
Oh, thank you for the raid.
W raid. Who is melts? Oh, it's the fucking Cyclops. This kid has to die.
Thank you for the raid. How was your stream? PTP, thank you.
Cloak is so low. She's dead.
Do they not have a rocket? Damn, I do not want to be playing Phoenix.
Switch now. You can switch now. They don't have a rocket. You don't have to play it. You're just suggesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch now.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you for the raid. Hi, Pyrite. It was good. Played Alan Wake 2, but was too far in the story for certain achievement. What achievement are you trying to get?
Oh yeah, did you ever beat that one
You
game?
on all again? Yeah, we're on ball. What game?
Witcher. I remember you were playing that.
It was really good, but
I have time.
it's one of those games I want to play on a TV.
I can see that. Nah, she doesn't die. That's crazy. The fucking Cyclops. Dude, this guy is so weird.
It sounds silly, chat, but games like those, I really have to play on a TV to get the most joy out of it.
Yeah, to immerse. No, I understand what you mean. It's very immersive if you play it on a TV.
When's the next story game? What game are we playing? Oh, we're only playing Cthulhu, huh? When is the next one? I have to choose. I actually can't recall what was the other. We'll see.
Didn't you say that free game that you got or something? Or you could do RE?
No.
Or you could do
Oh, RE, yeah. That's gonna be one of the RE ones.
Well, let me know which one you want to do, because if you want to do the co-op ones, we can. But I think you should do RE2. RE2. Oh.
I got stuck. Oh,
It was
shit.
big, but like the fucking CC. Who the hell's uppercutting us like this?
Am I lagging?
I don't think it was you. I was lagging too. Well, I don't. I think it was Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I don't know what that was.
Uh-huh.
It was weird. There's a diamond.
RE2. I guess diamond one. We are yes.
Yeah, I think you should do RE2. It's a pretty short game too. RE4 is longer though.
Oh, why not? I was trying to do this deer petting theme that opens the locked door and was already at the end of the game.
Oh
Rebel's
my
doing
god.
Good. I'm on my ult right now. I'm learning to DPS and tank. Mostly Elsa. I had a really good game with Mag. Yeah. We're in D1 now.
This guy is annoying as shit, I must say. That Spider-Man is frying our backline. Oh, he's dead. Man, that guy took ages to kill.
You play Rebels, CTP? And what characters do you play? Out of D rank, out of. Oh no!
Bruh. That girl's not dying. No point of shooting her. She's like immortal. This Elsa, I mean not Elsa, this rogue has got to die. Holy shit.
Hard to do that, and then there's a fucking Spidey that's one fucking hit. Holy Jesus Christ.
Doing thing.
Down to 30 seconds.
What the fuck? She has ult again?
That girl get all fast as hell. She has ult again? That's actually quite crazy.
No winner yet. Going to overtime.
She get all dummy fast, damn. Nah, I should have switched the thing earlier. Cause they're not dying. We need more damage. Cause their heals are crazy.
Oh, that sucks. But yeah, if your internet's bad, it does like affect the game, sadly.
Well,
Yeah, mostly Subtank main, White Fox, Emma mostly, but I haven't played a lot lately. What games do you play, PT?
Why is your account even Twinkie? Because of fill account. Usually fill in this account this way. What are you up to, Dabo? You stream?
You have an account redeem, Ninja? I have to do it after this, but you have to remind me.
which hero do you think you want to be today?
Ugh.
Genshin. Just to use points. You could use it too for the
My mind is sharp.
brain fart.
All the
Rivals.
games play on Genshin make me mad. Damn.
Gonna banish from this
Why don't you just play a story game then? I know what a story game is gonna make you mad.
Oh, what about like point click adventure games? Those are really, really fun. They're kind of like puzzle games too. Actually, no, that might make you mad if you don't got the patience for it. Sometimes the puzzles are
no,
a bit too
not Dark
complicated.
Souls 1. You guys are some trolls, bro. Visual novel? I don't think he's gonna play a visual novel.
Play Purple Place.
What was that?
I think that's calm. You don't know Purple Place?
No. Purple
What?
Place. The fuck is this?
You don't know Purple Place?
This
Oh
is
my
some kid
god,
shit.
I'm
What is
baffled.
this? Oh wait, no, I do know this shit. This is the thing with the cakes,
Dude.
right? Bro, he's not playing this shit.
It's calming.
If I see Devil playing it, I'm gonna think there's something wrong with him.
I'm kind of like
Purple Place.
mainly Rivals. Rivals not boring.
Five
I enjoy
hearts.
Rivals.
Yeah, but the difference is when I play games, I don't get mad. I don't stream. My view can reflect my YouTube upload schedule, bro.
I'll give you a follow and a shout out.
Care too much about view count, Dabo. Just play whatever you want to play.
I mostly PC. I'm a support main. On the out, just learning these heroes that I don't really play. I'll go Luna since I hardly play her.
Solo healer, seriously? Oh, no, I can heal instead.
Sure.
Shadow and my older is sharp.
I will bring peace.
Agent at work.
HT. Some cool math games.
Play Jubilee. You
Switch.
can play also.
Get ready.
Cover your ears. Jubilee
pick me,
is here.
Please. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the follow, PT.
Wait, what team up?
I'm trying to think of what like games I have that are calming.
Cover your ears. Jubilee.
I don't know. You have a bunch of random games.
The battle starts in 5, 4,
I like a lot of short story games.
1.
Cover your ears.
Short
Short
story
story?
horror games.
Ah, perfect.
Does horror games make you mad?
Mutant.
Does horror games make you mad, Dabo?
It shouldn't, right? It should scare you though.
Probably gets bored of them. I don't know.
Love that cake.
Incoming.
Now, would you play an RE, Dabo?
Oh, they have an Iron Fist. Iron Fist. I'm so dead. Human Torch and Iron Man? What the hell?
Oh, I'm dead. They have a DC. This match is probably not gonna continue. I haven't touched Resident Evil since
Well, that's
GameCube.
nice. You got two different flyers in two different spots.
Yeah, I hope that guy doesn't come back because
Now
we
the
just
monsters
got
go for you.
fried.
We did.
I can Steam share you, Dabo, if you want to play some games, or family share you.
What kind of monsters can he handle, PT?
If you want some games
Have
to
you
play, I
played
can
Outlast?
family share you, Dabo.
I think Outlast was a really good horror game I played.
I would rather be rich and miserable.
Rich and miserable? What?
Then do what? Play games, or what? What do you mean? Then do what?
DPS on Spidey? Hi Walla. I like to
Oh,
see
you just
that.
wanted to black out.
Spidey was your. Did I not know that? Spidey was your first lord?
Which hero do you think
Spidey.
will be today?
That's gonna be my last lord.
I'm not anyone's psych.
My older is sharp.
How many?
My mind is sharper.
Actually, how many characters do you have lorded right now, Infer?
This is a really good start.
Who
Okay, we
gonna
got two
banish
This is
from
good, no?
this match?
I got like 10, I think.
I think.
We all-
this is comp.
I think I have 10 lords.
It's almost perfect. It's almost perfect.
Ooh. You threw up a Spidey, man. You don't mess with me, man.
Thoughts
I
on
haven't
Blade getting
tried
canceled?
Outlast.
Blade? They're canceling
Yeah,
Blade
it's
for
my
what?
makeup game.
I think so. I actually can't recall how many games we won and lost.
I think we've only lost like 2
Why are
or
we
3.
banning?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I mean, regardless, we're up because there's no way we're not up. We've only lost like 2 or 3. It's been like 3 hours. GG no heals? Nah, I'll switch to healer if no one switches. I'm just waiting to see what people do first. I ban
This
Penny.
guy's trolling. Where's Penny at?
If it lands on that 16%,
50-50.
like your luck is just not it.
It's fine.
Okay.
Kind of a dick move though.
I
You
know,
try to
he
ban
is.
both your teammates.
Yeah, that guy is a dick.
Heroes could make all the difference.
We have 3 tanks. Whew.
Oh, we got a
Guys, it's
champion
almost
Gambit.
perfect.
Hold on. If no one switches to healer,
Maybe
I'll
triple,
switch.
triple support, triple tank. It's the new meta.
Oh wait, triple support, triple tank. Wait, let's try that.
Yeah, we're on
What,
offense.
you afraid? You
Are we
afraid?
not on offense? And that is not the meta. That's only on specific maps like the museum where you can hold them in front.
We're on defense.
Are we?
Yeah. Go triple heal.
All right.
I'll swap.
I'll go Rocket. Or actually, I'll go Jubilee. Jubilee does more damage.
Coming in 30 seconds. Stay strong.
Switch. This is the meta, guys. This is the meta.
Let me show y'all my ball handling skills, chat.
Huh?
What? Playing Jubilee.
That could be. You know that could be reworded better.
Yeah, you gotta get your mind out the gutter, buddy.
No. That was poorly phrased.
You literally have to like juggle balls with this character. Like I don't know what to
That
tell
was
you.
poorly phrased.
You gotta get your mind out the gutter. What was this guy talking about? Oh, that, but you don't know Jubilee, huh? You haven't played this update. This character is fire.
Give me a heal. Oh, never mind. I got it.
Where are you? Oh, you're Loki.
I'm good. Hey, they need to play where we can see.
Yeah, be careful going around that corner. We can't see you back there. Energy core detonated. They're vulnerable. Energy core detonated. Look at that. You see that ace chat? My ball handling skills elite. Elite ball knowledge. I don't know nothing about this. Whoa.
Oh.
Monster Hunter? Oh yeah, play Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is relaxing. Or play a Grand Blue. Grand Blue Relink. Give him your reeling code. What the? I'd redeem that. Alright, fall back, fall back.
Oh, I almost had ult.
All
Well, I
good.
did, but the Grove.
Mm-hmm. Be like that, it's all good. We're still holding the site somehow, though.
I guess I could just ult whenever.
Sheesh. Remember, we were way too grindy. Yeah, but I guarantee you.
Ooh,
It's
okay.
my, are
hold
you guys
the fuck
talking about if money brings happiness? What the? I have a. I can. Let me go first. Let me go first. I'm waiting for you guys. We kind of have to hurry though. Get in there, bro. Get in there.
You should go.
I got fucking grabbed. Energy core detonated.
Bruh.
Let's go.
0-2.
All right. Okay. So, who's gonna be the one to switch to DPS? I'll switch if nobody wants to.
That was phenomenal. That was awesome.
Because we definitely should not do triple tank on offense. Obviously.
I'll go DPS.
Triple DPS, triple heal.
Been one blade, only ever gonna be one blade.
I am Charlie Kirk.
Oh. Yikes. Are you doing a stream where you... we did that already, Next.
His name is just Charles Kirk.
We did that already, Next.
We can't do that. We can't know that, right?
Holy clutter? That's because it's Jubilee. It's fireworks, bro. It's a light show.
Shut up.
You guys don't like fireworks shit?
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Seeing you fighting Babs on the streets.
Teammates is more odd. Well, no, you don't gotta teach me how to play Jubilee. I know how to play Jubilee. I have like 20 plus hours on this character. Or like 30 or something. I almost loaded it on test server.
Whoa, Elsa. Look at the scoreboard.
Oh, you want to evolve on the main? Hell no, I'm trash.
Yes, that's crazy, bro.
I got her, Lord. Oh, good for you, bro. I know how to play Jubilee. You're not gonna teach me. Hulk's vulnerable. The Iron Fist on me in the back line. Help. Boss check. I'm already sitting up. I thought you were rank 1 Blade. Nah, I'm rank 1 Jubilee. Yeah.
They're on Daredevil now.
Daredevil? Oh, they're diving. They're vulnerable.
Damn. Oh, they're also triple heal. Hold on. No, I'm gonna go triple. I'm gonna max that triple.
You want? I love this character. She's so fun. Nice lamps. Fucking Daredevil was so annoying. Ooh, jumped over his ult. Nah, I'm not letting him die. Yeah, like that shadow was smooth, no? Jumped over the thing over the shift. Bro, I can't see, bro. I can't see. She's so floaty? Yeah. Thing ulted, I just jumped over it.
Let the sparks fly. Down to 30 seconds.
Oh, whatever, doesn't matter.
Rocket's right there.
Oh, that's not good.
No winner yet. Going to overtime.
I think we just lose there.
They thought they got rid of me? Really?
I am portaling.
Strange.
Magic is
I
not
think it's too late.
invisible force in
It's too late. We lost. Damn, we lose that? Unfortunate.
Yeah.
0, 2, 1.
That was a lot of visual clutter, yeah.
If I knew they were doing triple hill sooner, I would have switched over sooner.
No. It's not your fault. Me and Gambit mistakenly double ulted. We pressed it at like the exact same time. We pressed Q at the exact same time.
Damn.
It's
That
like-
was winnable.
It's not you guys' fault. Shall you lose it? Yeah, it happens. I mean, I'm supposed to go first because I'm Jubilee. But I should have calmed it. I'm not used to playing healer.
Oh, shoot. Fuck. Oh,
What?
okay. Let me pin that. I was supposed to do an account review for a ninja.
Hmm.
This chat's not working.
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
Think I should have portaled. I didn't check the clock. No, it's all good.
With me on the front lines, we can't.
It'd be like that.
You know, unless we do.
Now, who am I gonna banish from this match?
Damn, I have not been playing Dead Portal anymore. It was just so much funner. What character do you want to play?
I guess I'll play tank.
I bet. Play support pool? Hell no. Hell nah. I'm not playing support pool. I'll play. What is this? Play Luna. You won't? You're right, I won't. You can't bait me into playing support pool, chat. That's not how it works. I don't want to play that character. There is
Oh, we might both have to play heal.
Do we? How so?
Yeah. Oh wait, no, you're playing. I thought we had 2 tanks, but you were over one of them.
All right, take tank.
Pick your hero or villain. I'm not judging.
I'm Luna Snow. Like the moon, I shine in darkness.
Oh, nice. I get this do the team up. Okay, this works. Oh wait, Gambit's banned. Damn, I was gonna get this group the team up. That Iron Fist just switches team up. Is there any team up with Magneto? Any of these characters? Let me see. Are you okay? Did you just fall out your chair or something?
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
What happened to her?
The actual Magneto. Wow.
Should I know who you
She died, chat? What happened to her?
But you should know magnetism doesn't work on super cooled materials.
I fell.
That's what I can
Oh,
do.
you did fall out of your chair.
I was stretching and I fucking fell off.
You're
I'm
okay?
good. All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
2, 1. All you need to do is
Shit.
capture the mission area. Got it?
You doing that? Yeah.
My chair's pretty fucked, so yeah.
You're back.
Knocked her out. Oh, no, my back is fine. Because I was on the chair.
That dude's dead, bro. Like, I don't know. I can't heal that guy from right there. There's no way.
Max 1.
What? Why are you in cloak for?
You died?
Yeah, they have a Spider-Man and I'm switching to White Fox. Forget it.
Oh no.
Just forget it. She threw a terror cape at me, thinking she was Dagger.
No, come on now. Oh well.
She thought she was Dagger and threw a terror cape at me, bro. Like, what am I supposed to do for you, man? That guy's super dead.
Drop down the down healer.
That claw form is so nice. I love that. So fun. Just cutting people up. When there aren't any support players left, what are people gonna do? What are you, sad Eli's leaving the support nation? We're converting her to DPS. She's one of us. She's not coming back. Careful.
Can I break this chair?
This character's so fun, bro. Which one do you guys like more, Jubilee or White Fox, chat?
I like Jubilee more.
I like them both. Oh, I like supports that do damage. So if somebody dies me, they just fucking die. It's hilarious. I'm cutting the shit out of this girl.
She jumped. So got her.
Her healing is buns this season? White Fox? Oh, it's not about her healing. I'm not a healer. I'm not playing this character to heal. That's where you're misunderstanding me. That's where you got it twisted. I'm not playing her to heal. I'm playing her to kill people. I hate diving this broken ass healer. Nah, they say she's low tier. What you mean?
I can feel my ancestral power stirring inside of me. Stronger than ever.
She's weaker to dive than like Luna or Adam.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
I think her life steal should help when she gets dived. I don't know how well she is using that compared to others.
Oh, you have some White Fox? I mean, yeah, but they'll probably buff her eventually. I don't know.
I have no desire for sordid details. I simply wish to know that you are still content with your decision.
The battle starts
Tails
in
last
5,
ages to this team up. I love it.
3, 2, 1.
Among Us Gamer.
Mission area. Got it?
Hey, is Krusty iPad Kid? Is that BP?
Sounds like a BP name. The fuck? Krusty iPad Kid is crazy. The fuck happened to ladies, man? Oh shit, no! No, don't leave me! Wait, what the fuck? What is he taking me? No, bro. Fuck. He ate only me. This guy's a dickhead, bro.
I'm back, and I'll be more
How'd you die? Wait, what the?
They pushed in after Jeff swallowed.
Aw. Alright, just fall back, fall back, fall back. Reset, reset, reset. Wait, don't alone your son. That the Krusty iPad Kid. Yeah, just keep taking damage.
Oh, I guess they don't want. I don't want me.
Nah, they want to feed ult charge.
Bro,
oh,
watch out. There's a
that's
Spidey right
why.
here.
Alright.
I just saw this kid. Just
Bro,
biting right
he's
there.
arguing with the Krusty iPad Kid. That's why he solo ulted him.
That's good.
Yeah, we're patty caking. He's one. Oh, Cloak let me die.
Spidey's getting value off you guys.
What?
Did I block that? I would hope so.
You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going. I'll give you next much better.
Who is that all the way over there? Oh, it's Iron Fist. Oh, the trap killed him. What is he? Who does he think he is? Yo, ladies, man, are you gonna just? Okay, I have to save this kid. Someone's backcapping the point. It's Spider-Man. Are they gonna port or they just give up? They probably just gave up.
I have video.
No winner yet. Going to overtime.
Come here, idiot. Nice.
Got him.
Looking good.
W body block? Thank you. So I did body block him. I noticed I didn't have my shield, so I was like, shit.
Another epic victory.
A whole lot going on. There was a lot going on.
I want to see that again. I want to see that. What's wrong with ladies man?
No, he was just trolling. But I mean, he was stalling. He was doing good. He was doing good. He overextended like crazy, but Iron Fist takes ages to kill, so it was working out.
You Duke. You see that body block.
Team on Tokon today? I don't think I'm gonna play Tokon today. Cause I know I'm just gonna lag again. I'm just gonna get annoyed and get off. Might just chill today and not play Tokon. I just gotta find one more character. Very good.
Right here.
Chilling Marvel was like a planetary combo. I mean, we're chilling. These games have been pretty chill. I don't know about you,
I
but
think you didn't charge it enough too.
I'm chilling.
Oh shit. Almost forgot.
Account review?
Yes.
Yeah, we only lost 1, 2, 3, 4. We only lost 4, and we won.
Right with
2,
Jubilee's
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 7. Yeah, we're chilling.
Man, I want to see who you play the most. I didn't know you were a Loki player like that. Ninja? I had no idea. These queues are pretty chill. Loki, DPS pool. You play Tank and Jubilee. Is this your main account? Like you try to bit of a lot of people. I think you have good healers in your roster too.
Oh.
I think Jubilee, Gambit, and Loki are good roster. And if you know the basics of like these two, it's pretty good too. Play Loki like that.
I love Loki. He does damage.
That's so like interesting. I think because I hardly ever seen him play Loki.
Red Teletubby. But Teletubbies are creepy. Oh man.
They are. Chat, who's watched Teletubbies as a kid?
Those shits are creepy as hell, bruh. Man.
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
I wonder what the designers were thinking when they were making that.
Win. Are you? I'm not a hero.
Creepy ass characters, tell you that.
You know what? I want to play Mag.
Who am I gonna banish?
Wanna play Mag?
I love me some Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm feeling more like a tank than I am a DPS today.
Okay. I will switch to DPS then, I guess.
I grew up off. Oh,
Yo Gabba
Yo
Gabba.
Gabba
I
Gabba.
remember
Yes, yes. Tinky Winky was my favorite. I didn't really watch.
Like Wow Wow Wubsy and those. Yeah, I remember those.
Oh, I love Wow Wow Wubsy. I didn't really watch Sesame Street though.
I think the last kid show I was obsessed with was Fish Hooks. That was Disney Channel. I was like,
Oh, I remember Fish Hooks.
like that show. I think that was like the last one I watched. After that,
I really like Mickey
Grown
Mouse
Up.
Clubhouse.
Oh, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse? Bro, that was always on when I was
Little
going to school. I was so fucking mad. I didn't get to watch it.
Yeah,
Like-
I hardly got to watch that.
Exactly when I was supposed to go to the damn bus stop would turn on. I was so sad. I would pray I missed the bus just to watch it.
You'll need a top-notch team.
I don't
to
know
win
what
this
channel
one.
it was, but I really liked watching the cartoons that were on late at night. So that would be like Goosebumps. No, Goosebumps not a cartoon. But like that was not a cartoon, but that what's it called? The Purple Dog?
The Purple Dog.
The Purple Coward.
Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Yeah.
That's Cartoon
Courage the
Network.
Cowardly Dog.
That's
I'm trying to
Cartoon
think of all
Network.
the old cartoons. That would play at like midnight.
It was Cartoon Network, and it would be Adult Swim.
No, it wasn't just Cartoon Network. It was another one. Was it Boomerang?
Disney, Boomerang, GX.
It'd be like the super
Was it GX,
old
chat?
version.
I don't remember what it was.
Hi,
It was
kitty.
Disney XD, Nicktoons.
Wait, did I say coward instead of courage?
It was Courage the Cowardly Dog. So, I mean, we understood what you meant, don't worry.
You reduce me to a weapon and make everything about your
What was that one chat? Oh,
I have mutant
I'll even watch some of the Twisted cartoons. They were not meant for kids.
Ah,
What's it called? Cat Dog?
Cat
I
Dog
actually
is
like
good.
Cat Dog. What's it
Cat
called?
Dog's-
Cow and Chicken or something?
Whoa, I never heard of that.
Chicken Cow?
Cat, I know Cat Dog. Cow and Chicken, I have never heard of that. Oh, we're one healer. Fuck.
I'm gonna play back. Hold on.
I will switch, I guess. God damn it. Damn trolls. What are they running? Are they dive? Oh, they are dive.
Dive and anti-dive.
You guys have an Animal Crossing backline. You guys have a Rocket and a Jeff.
Rocket.
Yeah, you guys are gonna have a Rocket and Jeff today.
Okay, nothing's dying.
I mean, we're playing BP into things, so he's 0-2. All right. Well, I have ult, but wow,
This might not be it.
not at all. Well, I can't ult anymore. We're down to Jeff insta died when we ulted. Yo, can we switch off Jeff and BP, please? You said what?
Wait, Sunless? Man, you supposed to be a shadow, bro. It's supposed to be like.
Well, he's playing BP in the thing. It's not much. It's not that he's doing bad. It's just that he's getting counterpicked.
Like, yeah, but like, I know you're supposed to change up yourself all the time. You gotta be willing to fly, man.
Fucking
I
die.
roll.
Die, people, die.
I'm gonna just put it down. Fuck it. Nice block. Yeah, I was literally directly behind you. You had to throw it like weirdly since I was behind your shield.
I thought someone. Oh. I thought someone died there.
Shit, someone is about to die here. Holy shit. I just died.
Didn't work. Are you guys good?
Define good. Because I'm getting smoked here.
Their rocket's dead.
That guy is forcing BP's 5 fucking deaths, bro. Pack it up, bro.
They're still down a healer. They're down both healers. You guys just win this. 3 cart and walk. We're gonna have rocket back in about 5 seconds. Here, please, back in 15.
I don't know how to understand this guy.
Just keep walking, cart. We kill whoever touches. They have 2 healers now. Yeah, no healers. Yeah, good back line.
I don't think we need that one.
Better safe than sorry.
Rocket died again.
Costco? He name sniped Costco. I need to go to Costco actually.
If I knew it wasn't gonna work, I'd switch.
He name sniped Costco.
You should have little bit of tempo.
Kitty, how are you doing? Okay.
You forgot that Infer starts.
Are you gonna push up or the placement's kind of weird right now?
I was putting my
You guys
beacon
are up there,
down.
I'm down here.
I went to go put my beacon down, but Infer has bloodlust after the first kill. I just like seeing things die.
I didn't have to do that.
This guy's a loser. Leave my damn supports alone. Oh, hell no. Where is she going with that? Yo, DPS, how'd you die to that? Come on, man. Oh, shit. I'm dead. He was directly in front of me. There was like no racking to that. Oh, that's fine.
Only 60 seconds left.
We gotta regroup.
That guy's so low, taking a 1v. Okay. Can't teach that. I don't know. I don't know why he BPO'd there. Fosters? I love Fosters.
Oh, I like that one.
Remember like Wilt and Eduardo. I forgot the other. I remember Frankie. Blue. Cheese. Oh my god. Fucking cheese,
Funny,
bro.
probably adult, right?
Yeah. Fucking cheese, bro. That dude pissed me off. Fucking cheese. No, I thought the whatever her name is. Oh, portal. Oh, never mind. I can't. Someone switch to him.
The current score is
Cheese was annoying. Cheese wasn't that. He was just. Well, yeah, he wasn't mine. he was.
choosing which side you're on. The right heroes could make all the difference.
Who are you calling a raccoon, huh?
Cheese was cool. My god. That dude was just trolling. Not Code Lyoko. But they're everyone gets creeped out by Code Lyoko. Cause their like foreheads are like gigantic or something. I don't know why he drew it like that, but hey. I like
It's gonna
the
be my
show.
last game.
I bet. Man, it's just tough. Bro, it's an old show. What do you expect? What do I play? I don't even know what to do here. Oh, we're on defense. I can't play this.
Oh.
I'll just do Luna, I guess.
Always with me in spirit.
Them at this level before, Rogue. Are you all right?
Need to worry about me, Eric. You ain't my husband or my daddy.
This comp is all over the place. I got like no synergy.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3,
What
2, 1.
the hell are they talking about in chat?
It seems we have company.
When aircrafts on their foreheads? Stop making fun of people's foreheads, chat. I know some of y'all got some crazy foreheads.
What? No. I was just trying to caught.
What happened to you?
I died like instantly.
Ooh.
What's the word? Capture the point. Capture the point.
Let's see.
A nice deep freeze. I don't have to be center stage.
Ooh, buddy. I don't have bubble. Oh, I do.
I am about to die. Ooh, get shit on. Oh, I'm dead. Holy spies. I think my sister watched that in like Winx Club.
Change after watching English Adult Swim.
Okay, this match is a loss, by the way. I have 5 minutes. It's gonna be very hard to hold.
Why are we losing though?
Well, I mean, we sat on BP into thing for
Oh, yeah,
like a
that's
very long time. Very, very long time. Like, I don't know. Like, I told him to get off it. He said, I'm considering it, and he sat on it the whole half.
No.
I got ulted by Emma. Couldn't ult.
Yeah, I saw.
I'm making a comeback.
I'm fucked.
You like that? Fucking red Teletubby plays thing. The red Teletubby being the thing player is so funny. Oh, hell no. 3, 2, 1, oh no. What are you ulting? They're already dead. Why? Yo, why do people do that? they're down 5 or 4 people. Don't ult. Oh.
Where are they? At the top or the bottom? Oh, we got one.
They're coming from their spawn room. Nice.
Pro Jubilee. There's a Spidey somewhere here.
I need you guys to play up tanks, so take some damage for me so I can get ult.
I'm gonna try to take invisible.
I just wasted it.
What the fuck? That guy's laggy as shit. Yeah, never mind. This is winnable.
We're Z-nutting, Go look at card. I'm gonna deal with that front.
That guy switched back to BP into thing. You can't teach this, bro. Yo, why'd you switch back to BP into thing?
He doesn't peel. When I play frontline, I do that. I'm getting about, we got more value to push to BP.
He's getting more value on BP? We need to get you some new characters. I'm dead. It's too late in this game. You can't get value on any other character other than thing. I mean, other than BP in the thing. That's game.
Portal.
I'll try to portal.
That's game, bro. That's game. It's too late to portal.
Or BP if you could. Because I have ult.
It's too late.
No.
Elsa and Bucky are open too. He says, I'm not getting value on any other character. My
He's
man's
not getting value on any other character.
pool is cooked.
Oh.
Punisher's probably open too. Okay, Punisher isn't open, but Bucky's open, Elsa's open, Phoenix is open. He has 13 deaths. I love this game. He's Lord Bucky? He was? Oh, nah, you can't teach that. That's GG's, bro. I love this game. I'm done too. We rate.
Follow Young Ray. I hope you're doing well. That is sad.
His character pool is cooked. I'm checking his history. Oh, it's hidden. Of course you can't look at it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I ain't get to see a single ult from him because every time he ulted, he insta died.
Thanks for the games, DPS.
Yeah, GG's DPS. Oh, that was great. Gotta be hitting on the way he gets target ban. That character is so buns now after the nerf.
I
But
need to learn these other roles though. I'm fucking with Mag a lot.
nice.
It's just a lot of brain power required. It's fine.
That's good.
I'll get used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it. It'll become second nature.
Mm-hmm.
So
DPS is
you're
gonna take some
improving.
time. Thank you, DPS. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You were crazy yesterday.
Who was I playing yesterday? Elsa?
Yeah.
Maybe I just felt like a tank today. That's probably what. I probably felt like a tank.
I feel that.
Were you gonna end or were you gonna double raid?
I'm ending. Bro, if I get on token, that's just gonna lag. It's just gonna annoy me. I'm just gonna get annoyed and just get off the game like I do every time I play that game. I'm gonna just chill
Alright, let me know
tonight.
who you want to raid.
I picked yesterday. You picked. Did I not pick yesterday? Did I?
Death picked for us. So you gave out a few options and then Death chose. It does. It does count because you technically did not choose one.
Yeah. Is she spitting chat? Is she right or like that?
You didn't choose one. Did you choose? Did you choose?
I listed options for you to choose.
Was that choosing? Was that choosing?
I'm picking
That's not
Quibbles.
choosing.
Quibbles it is. You guys are going to Quibbles. I'm gonna catch you guys later, chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you guys for watching.
Yes. See, Pyro says I'm right. Right. How do you spell Quibbles again? I thought I'm spelling it right. What am I spelling wrong? Quibbles. It's a QW, right?
I typed in the chat QUBBLEZ.
Oh, it's with a Z. Wait, no. There's no W in it.
Where you get a W from?
There we go.
Oh, Quub.
Quibbles. Yeah.
I see what you did there. All right, ciao. I'll catch you guys later. I appreciate you guys being here.
See you guys. Wait, this is Quibbles?
Okay, that's not
He
Quibbles.
looks a little different. He looks a little different.
Quibbles was definitely there earlier, I think. Hold on, we were running the stream. Okay, Quibbles was definitely there earlier. I don't know who that is.
All right. Good night, everyone. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you, chat.